think of yourself as a global employee. At least if I was home, I wouldn't pay attention to anything locally, to be honest, just to make sure that my future was secured.
Nobody wanna hire me in my country. Build a portfolio online and let's a stranger pay. Strangers will make you rich for your friends do. So
Ooh, that bad, that real bad.
online networking to me is the solution.
All right, today our guest is Darnel Francois, and he specializes in tech ecosystems, ESG investments. We'll learn more about that, and product management. He's the co-founder, CEO of Draper Startup House, Caricom, and in addition, he's a strategic product advisor to many startups in the Caribbean region. His ability to identify and estimate market opportunities from an end-to-end point of view allows him to lead companies to successful exits. Darnel, thanks for coming on the Caribbean Tech Pioneers podcast. Excited to have you on.
Hey man, thanks for that good introduction and thanks for having me, man.
Vibes. Okay, so tell us more about Draper Startup House and its mission.
Sure. So quick little brief history lesson. So the DSH, with the Draper Startup House, I use DSH for short because it's a mouthful, right? It started about 4 years ago. It was originally called Tribe Theory by Vikram
Mm-hmm.
Bharati. He's actually the president of the DSH Global. So basically, long story less long, he's doing this co-working community event in Singapore and whatnot. And I believe Tim got wind of it and invest in the company and believed in it so much, the concept, that he kind of made it his namesake, in the Draper Startup House renaming. And I mean, Draper is a great name in tech and investment, so I'm sure Vikram didn't have much pushback on that. And ever since, it is now at 25 global locations. So what DSH is, essentially, it's a co-working and co-living ecosystem across the globe where it's focused on digital nomads, travel entrepreneurs, and building community in any native, I guess, country. So whether it's Bali or Trinidad, for example, their leaders. Vikram isn't coming to Trinidad and run the startup house basically. So the model was a more outsourced model where they found people that they could trust in different regions. And each agreement is bespoke, right? So it's not one same franchise kind of arrangement across the world. For example, in our case, they are on our cap table versus there's a kind of fast food franchise situation where we just pay royalties. So
Mm-hmm.
they really support and believe in the missions of the startup house founders. And yeah, it's really for community, creativity, fireside chats, workshops, education, that sort of hospitality element as well. So in Trinidad, as you know, Mark, you're from Trinidad, we don't really believe in the co-living thing as much as somebody in Bali who's accustomed to crowd surfing or what have you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what we need in Trinidad, and as you can see, is booming. I'm not sure if you read the last time I said a lot of people are in Starbucks co-working, a lot of people are, in different places trying to co-work. One, because of the whole remote work evolution, and then also you're looking for motivation to do your own mission, right? When you're in a job, even if you're sneaking your own work on a job, you can't really talk about it and you can't really relate to people who are only in the 9 to 5. But when you come in a co-working space, it's more of a, okay, these are my people. Boy, if it's a company, boy, hey, oh yeah, where you find this information? Where you get a website? So that's what Draper does around the world. Bring those people together, and obviously there'll be people like Mark, who's ahead in AI, and then maybe somebody like Darnel, who's into product advisory, and then maybe a creative person who could use cameras. And the amalgamation of people is what makes the Draper Startup House model powerful, basically. It's really about people centered. That's a term thrown around for likes, but it's really human centered for you.
Makes sense. Can you tell the audience a bit about Tim Draper?
Sure. So Tim is actually well, a billionaire VC, venture capitalist, and he's third generation, I believe. And fun fact, his grandfather actually invented venture capitalism, which is actually yeah. So that's a Draper name is nothing to smirk at if you're being real, right? And there's no
Mm-hmm.
uh, parade and whatever. Like, and that's a huge thing to boast, right? I believe his
Yes.
grandfather was a NATO guy, and he saw the evolution of, okay, there are a lot of people in our Silicon Valley, and I'm sure it's called Silicon Valley as it, but a lot of people in the valley that would have been having these ingenious ideas and whatnot. And I think he just realized, which sounds real simple today, but as you know, even up today, you still don't get investment easily. But if we just get certain people who we believe in, this investment back in and open certain corporate or I guess political doors, these inventions, these groundbreaking technologies, or whether it's medical or whatnot, could actually change the world. So yeah, he and his friends, I guess that's what they really just saw the vision and they acted on it. And well, like I said, 3 generations later, here with Tim, and who's again VC billionaire, Skype, Hotmail, Coinbase, Robinhood, some pretty household names. Yeah, he's a really intuitive investor. He likes to be, I guess, somewhat of an expeditionist. He's the first to invest big in Asia as a VC. He's the first to invest in a lot of regions in the world and now in the Caribbean, right? With Caricom. So he's a man, I guess, why we respect him. He puts his money where his mouth is literally. And not just money, but skin in the game. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So even in his survival program in the Hero We training in San Mateo, he will jump in the pool with the founder. So he might jump first and be like, let's take, because he's looking for people with that grit. Because he knows, after a lot of successful companies, people like, well, what does Tim do that the other VC doesn't do? He actually gets in the trenches with founders. You know what I mean? He actually figures out how would this make the world better versus how much money I'm going to make. And it's not like he doesn't care about money. He doesn't pretend he doesn't care about money. But as you can tell as well, if the thing is making the world better or is a world he sees himself living in,
Hmm.
obviously it's going to make money. So we don't need to focus only on money. Let's focus on what is this helping in the world for real, and then okay, money will follow.
That makes sense. And what is it like going through a program with someone like that in order to kind of get to where you are to represent his name?
Well, honestly, I how to describe this? It's pretty cool because the Draper. So there are two facet programs. There's the online program and then the in person. So
Hmm.
online it's a week program and it's not the usual. And I did again. I'm a research guy, right? So I did a bunch of accelerators just to see what was out there even before the Draper thing, right? When I was a founder myself in terms of this hardcore startup found life, right? And what else is the difference with Draper? They try to bring specialists in the fields rather than just try to give you a curriculum and make money. Because
Yes.
there's a lot of pump and dump accelerator programs out there. And then there's the Drapers, the Techstars, and whatnot, where they actually try to bring specialists and really make you a better founder. So I said that's definitely one. And then two, if you've been more specific to in-person program, which I think is the real Draper experience, Tim is going survive. There's something called survival week, and Tim will literally go in the bush with you. You can't you can't have any electronics or anything, and you have to live off the land. You have to kill a chicken. You have to pull
Hmm.
the crops, whatever. You got to take a cold bath in the morning. You got to take a bio break outside for real. And he's there doing
Hmm.
it with you. He's like what 63 or something. So that alone should let
Okay.
you know the mindset of the person. They clearly do live a comfortable and purposeful life, but they also not afraid to get in trenches with the young founders in cohorts. So he's not the regular person, right? So his intuition will be a little higher than the average person, and you can't fake the funk around something like that because he has skin in the game with you. You know what I mean? I'm doing survival with you, and I'm 63 years old. That kind of way.
Yes.
So yeah, that should give you a good view of his character without even meeting him.
Now that's wise, man. What would you say is the most exciting part of your job so far?
Honestly, the most exciting part of my job, I think, will be discovery, right? And also the product manager. That's my strongest trait, right? Discovery. And I guess you'll get into that sometime when we talk about my life, right? I've always been
Hmm.
into discovery. Like I've been curious. So like discovering whether it's a new investment opportunity. Like most recently, Zid and I would have invested in Melina Bataya business. She's from Argentina. So the name of our company is called Panoram. And Prote Oral is the kind of coin term she made where instead of having to take insulin via injections or these other types of treatments, a lot of people are either squeamish by needles or if you have to take the medicine too frequently, the needles will cause, pains in the arm or whatnot. So now she found a way where she could it's digestible. So it's called proteoral, right? Which is literally like it's pro-oral, right? So you could digest this orally now. So you don't worry about the pain of needles, you don't worry about the fright of needles. And for people who are not affected by it, it sounds minimal. But people who knows how much phobia is around that or how much pain is around constant injections, this will change a lot of people's lives around the world. So a lot of the triple ecosystem would have invested into Melina. I believe she's like a 1.2 round, and we were a part of that round from Caricom personally because I mean, same thought process, right? Like, I didn't forget the money part. This is obviously going to change the world. Money will follow. There's no doubt about that. So that's those discoveries, or like even this platform you're on, right? This Riverside thing we're using here, like that's discovering new people, new things. That's the part of the job that keeps it good for me because honestly, the 9 to 5 life when I was working before, that was the main thing that would have discouraged me, right? You might have a discovery and they can't implement anything because you're just a cog in the machine. Not saying all 9 to 5s are like
Mm-hmm.
that. There are obviously way more dynamic companies around you that allow their workers, but the average company, as you know, you don't get to discover much, you don't get to partake in much. So that, and what job because we're so hands on, and like I said, like Vikram and Dave will literally be like, yo, y'all go and build this empire. You know, of course, we stand to benefit, but we're not going to tell you how to jump and how to crawl. You'll figure it out based on your context. So we have a lot of discoveries every week, and yeah, that's what makes it dynamic.
Great. Tell me about the not necessarily the ecosystem, but the pool of
Mm.
founders that you have in your network and sort of where they come from, and to some degree their profiles. Are they atypical type folks?
Mhm.
Tell me that broad range of people
Yeah,
that
that's
you
a good
work with.
question. Well, first of all, as you know, as a Caribbean person yourself and Trini, the tech scene is still nascent. But now that it's been a year now that we've been kind of functioning on this Draper umbrella and doing our community outreach and networking, there are quite a few people that either already had an idea in the pipeline or they had a prototype built or platform that doesn't get traction as yet. And doing some cool things, you know. They might not have all the things figured out, obviously. That's what we're here for. And we don't have everything figured out either. And that's why we have a part of an ecosystem as well. But yeah, we have about 70 people in our own Dripper community. We have a little WhatsApp chat where there's people who work at Microsoft, used to work at Microsoft, people who work corporate jobs, but they do a little freelance on the side. So it could be anything from photographers, videographers, to people who looking now to find their side hustle, or people who already have their side hustle and trying to go full time into their side hustle and get investment. Or you might realize, okay, maybe I'm too early for the early stage capital, like Darnel said. But if I take a loan and I get to X point, then I'll become investable. So yeah, from creative to the medical thing to freelancers who build websites, it's a really pretty wide range. So what we realize, I would say people are hungry for more and wanting to be part of community, but I guess it didn't exist in a more traditional manner, like the Draper Caricom before. So there's been like siloed groups, but now we kind of trying to bring it together. We're seeing okay, there are people actually want to share, which isn't the again. I hope I don't come across judgy to my own culture, but being really, Korean people kind of hide their projects and whatnot because there's a small area, people to laugh at you. It's not
Mm-hmm.
Silicon Valley where you walk outside and you have an idea. If it's good enough, a man will literally give you money in a cafe on the spot, right? If you could share a business plan or your pitch deck, as we'll call it in our field, a man will fund you. Trinidad funding not like that. We don't have the PC culture as yet. We have more conservative principles, conservative money. We want to see month over month growth. We want to see traction in the most corporate Ernst and Young way, whatever. Not to call a company name, sorry, but that's and that whole
Yeah, yeah.
talking about versus and people are still scrappy, people are still figuring it out, but they have a lot of potential. You need
Mm-hmm.
to reframe now how you look at our entrepreneurs and learn what venture capital is about. And not everybody has the appetite for it, but I know we have a lot of capital in the Caribbean for it, that could be repurposed
Yes.
for venture. And that is what will change the Caribbean, right? Not the streamline mom and pop shop. I mean, that will help with providing jobs and whatnot. So don't knock on that. And we need employment and all that. But in terms of like innovating for Trinidad and Caribbean, we need to invest in the crazy entrepreneurs who are willing to downsize their lifestyle to get this thing off the ground.
Yes. And what do you see as the main challenges aside from, I think, coming from the Caribbean, you think about, I can't let nobody know this thing because if they find out this thing, nah, they go teeth it. You
Yeah.
understand? And they go run with it.
Yeah.
And the next thing is like you just said, in terms of I present my idea to a friend or somebody, and you're lineman on the corner drinking a beer, and they're just kind of laugh at you.
Yeah.
So I think this notion of people laughing at you and making fun of you for these big audacious goals is
Yeah.
even more present in our smaller regions versus, let's say, something in Silicon Valley. Like I went across there, I went to Stanford, and what I learned about these large, powerful institutions and the power of going there is that the minimum possibility level that you think and you feel deep inside your soul and spirit, or the thing that you communicate with, is
Yeah.
so high over there. So you'll talk to a freshman in Stanford, and yeah, they're already on their startup. Their classes are like garbage, and they're already focused on building something very, very large. And whereas if you come to or you meet someone in a smaller school or in a smaller region, what they think is possible is just quite low to some degree. So can you comment on some of those challenges that entrepreneurs face in the Caribbean?
Most definitely, right? And this, of course, we talk about entrepreneurs, but this will go across the board for even if a musician from the Caribbean and whatnot. It's just the exposure, right? So then I talk about a lot the exposure to more. So again, in Stanford, you have a bigger campus, you have a bigger city, you have a bigger country, a bigger economy, a bigger purse from the government. So everything is just more abundant. Where I've seen ex-person from Stanford. I get who I get them from Stanford off the top of my head. I get nerdy. Like Gary Tam, right? Like Gary Tam
Mm-hmm,
from
mm-hmm,
Stanford,
yeah.
who would have speak about his journey where he didn't take his startup. He could have been part of PayPal and he didn't do it. And he went to a course he joined on Google because that was his dream. But then he realized, wow, I'd have been a multi-millionaire had I joined PayPal or whatever. It was early. But again, because opportunity is so abundant, he started his own startup, right? Got successful, had an exit, made a lot of money, became an investor. He invested in what I believe was Coinbase. Is when he make like a
Yeah, he's
huge
one of the
windfall.
early folks in
Yeah,
Coinbase, yeah.
so because you understand for the network he has, it allowed him to get the high tech job easy. Not saying he didn't have to work and study like any other smart person have to, right? But it's almost like when you're part of those big ecosystems and especially those what you see, those Ivy brand names communities as well in this big country. Once you work hard, it's almost like if your path is sure. Whereas, in the
Yes.
Caribbean, you could be smart, you go to UE, which and UE don't even like, you're not going to show share UE. UE is actually like a top 10 or a top 10% school in university in the world. Like there's some research they
Mm-hmm.
came out of quote me, but I know it's like a top percentile. And I was like, yeah, it's not like we're not smart in the Caribbean. What do we have access to, right? And what do we see? Like, we don't have a bunch of Gary Tams and people running around, we don't, that's so that lack of exposure is like, okay, if I didn't see him do it, I don't think I could do it. Reason why there are a lot
Yes.
of more soca artists. Marshall paved the way in a big way, and then before Marshall, for Blue and Sparrow that paved the way for Marshall to see. So we're seeing where this can make sense. We're seeing where we can make money and get notoriety. In the tech scene, it's not many people would have cracked the door, you know, as yet. And if you do make a dent, it's either on a corporate level and you no longer come to Trinidad or the Caribbean country. And
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk about that at another party conversation where, I mean, you don't get support from the government or anything so freely because remember, people who work in government, they're also humans, right? The government hates you or anything. It's just like, okay, I'm not sure about this investment into our grants into the sector because we're just not sure. We're not savvy in technology and we don't want to look stupid. Everybody doesn't want to look stupid. That's the whole thing with this whole game, right? Nobody wants to look embarrassed or stupid. I don't want to try my hand on that one day and it doesn't work out. Whereas, like I say, in the big
Mm-hmm.
pond, we've seen this many times. So even if we don't hit in the big pond situation, it's like, okay, we just need to, in their mind, and there's something even in the music industry, right? There's like, for every 10 artists they sign, if one is successful, the label is crazily successful for that. So they don't even care about the losses. So losses isn't even an embarrassment in their mind. That's just the law of averages to them. In our mind, it's not the law of averages as yet. In our mind, it's an embarrassment. If a business company doesn't work, oh, I look stupid to my boss. That's how we still think in the Caribbean. Or the founder, if I do this project and it doesn't take off the ground, my friends and family going to laugh at me. The burn, Versus someone else is like, okay, let's try again because we'll get funding again, or people know they mean taking us on to laugh at us. Because this is part of the game. That's the difference in mentality. One side know this part of the game and we're gonna get to it because exposure, and our side is kind of like we need to be perfect one time. And that's a real Caribbean thing as well, right? You want to come first in class,
Mm-hmm.
or you want to get the gold star. How the academic system is even structured, it is pressuring you to only excellence and anything out under excellence. Man, you waste your parents' time, man. You know, kind of thing. Like, yeah,
Yes.
that's the two different mentalities I see on both sides.
Now, I like that you call out this notion of not looking stupid because I personally I think in the Caribbean culture our ability to make fun of each other goes to a much
Oh,
deeper level. Yeah, yeah. Like you can mash up somebody versus
yeah,
like you're shit talking somebody in America. That like small thing. But
Yeah.
down here, somebody will try to disrespect your soul and thing that
Yeah.
to that
And
kind of level now.
you can have a
And
fight. You can have a
yeah. So that's very interesting. The psychological component of
correct.
having confidence in your journey on a global scale. So let's talk about something I sort of see in some of the Caribbean startups is this notion of speaking like they're an international startup, but not necessarily always contextualizing to what's happening in the Caribbean in the short term as
Yeah.
they
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
make their way to that global vision. Can you
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
expand on that?
All right. Well, this is my take on and how I see it. It's conflicting for even the founders, right? Because of we have the aforementioned mindset difference, right, between big pun and small pun. You try to angle on a big visions for something to believe in from the Caribbean, as well as that's the only context you also see in where successful, right? So it's twofold psychologically. One, you want to appear bigger than you are because let's be real, Caribbean people love to support foreign looking things, right? We don't really appreciate our own technology as that because it's not known. We don't appreciate our own stuff as that. We love to be acknowledged by foreign people first, that kind of way. So that's one. I know that's one main reason. And then secondly, like I said, because your context is not on a Caribbean basis, you model things based on its foreign or international standard, which isn't bad in terms of if it designs on a level. But like you said, if the context isn't tying back to our own problems and needs, that's where the disconnect happens, right? And that's what founders have to learn. And I guess this is our job as well as in Draper with Zwede and I, to figure out, not figure out, not so we have it all figured out, but still we know what the problem is, right? So keep giving the resources and reinforcing through our workshops, our whether it's a tech fest or our pitch competitions, pitch to the Caribbean, right? We don't ever encourage anyone to like do this global pitch. No, you're in the Caribbean. Of course, the idea needs to be scalable for the world, right? So, example, I'll give you one
Mm-hmm.
like Sherry Williams, who won the Caribbean Investment Forum survival pitches we had with them. She's doing something called Vehicle, which is basically, if you summarize it, it's like a Caribbean tour.
Okay.
But there are things that taking our particular needs, like all the insurance thing and structure with the cars and our cultural norms, which is why it was a winner, right? She was already had traction, she's already doing it on her own. And we was like, yeah, you just need a little more capital, a little more connections to keep this going. But as you already know, the fact that I can call it a Caribbean Turo, the scalability is already there. But she's not trying to be foreign, she's trying to be Caribbean. But yes, it
Mm-hmm.
can scale across the world once it gets the foot in any traction and whatnot. So that's a good example of somebody doing it with that proper mindset. And there's no knock to anybody who doesn't have the that contextualized thing. Because as you know, a lot of things you have to learn by trial and error and over time, right? So yeah,
Well, I guess let me play devil's advocate from the perspective of I'm gonna criticize a Trini Turo business, right?
yeah,
Imagine I allow man drive my car and it have all them big pothole, and how
yeah,
I gonna ensure that if he mash up my car in this pothole, I will get back my money from the insurance company in
yeah,
Trinidad, and I think that's extremely important to consider how much more difficult it is to interact with established entities. Like, let's say a car insurance company, they'll be like, "Oh, you just let somebody mash up your wheel or whatever. Yeah, that's kind of your problem." And sometimes the actual, maybe let's say claims process or the actual processing of business activities can take significantly longer in the Caribbean region, which just kind of kills your business to some degree, right?
correct. And as you know, traction, momentum. Those are words in my tires, like repeating I'm sure throughout this conversation many times over, right? Like that's really, really, really important about startup. When you're at a certain point where you're like you're an established company in 5 years in, or you have a certain amount of investor backing, whether it's private equity investor, you don't worry too much about traction at that point. But when you get anything off the ground, you need that momentum and because the Caribbean is small and we are way more word of mouth based, like AdSense and those things don't it doesn't affect our ecosystem the way it affects our American or larger fund ecosystem where they're not gonna be down personally, right? So if I see the Google reviews, I'm relying on that. If I see the Yelp reviews, I'm relying on that. When the Caribbean, you know somebody. And I went to school Mark boy and I see Mark trying this kind of AI thing and boy, my card like I get stuck in the system last week. Like, that one bad review is going to go so far so quickly. So much
Mm-hmm.
damage control has to be done. And like I said, even from the point of this insurance company watching, way boy, do I want to insure this kind of Caribbean tour business? I don't know. That must be for America with a big country. Yes, we can't afford that because there's only 1.something million people. So we do have unique challenges in terms of our size and understanding of economics. And this is something I really want to drive home in the next couple of years through all initiatives. How we need to focus on solutions in the Caribbean. We like to complain a lot in Caribbean, as you know, right? So we'll look at all the wrong things with the business. But the company will say, if it does tweak this, I'll invest in it. If it does do this, I would support it. They don't tell you that. They kind of just let you know, boy, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. And they're not wrong. It's not like what you're pointing out is incorrect, it's
Mm-hmm.
accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But the mindset should be, if you could fix these things, I'll give it a shot. Or could we figure out
Mm.
a way, a pathway together to get this done? That's the next I want to push, and that's what needed. Right? But we can't pretend, like you correctly said, that we have different economies of scale, visa size and exposure and different things like that.
Yes. I do think the one advantage the Caribbean has is that backdoor ability to get business done quickly if you know a person. While I think in more traditional corporate America that's maybe not looked upon as well.
Hmm.
That's what everyone does in sales, right? Hey, I have a contact in this company, and they put you in contact with someone
Right?
else who can open a door to this big enterprise wide sale.
Yeah,
So I think us really taking advantage of that ability. Hey, I know a person who knows a person to move things along faster. If I was with I running that hard because just trying to go the vanilla traditional route, I think will definitely hurt a lot of startups and businesses in the
yeah.
Caribbean in the long run.
And
Uh,
honestly, we're getting there. I'm seeing it changing a bit. I want due to social media and this new or millennial slash Gen Z transition, there's way more collaboration. And not as again, I need to talk about the full aspect, right? So all over in tech and investments, and as you'll see, entertainment is a part of our ethos because we're very
mm-hmm,
event and culturally oriented people in the Caribbean. So even Tech Fest, which you're part of, we had Nyla come and perform, because and we had a speaker on a panel for the first time as well, right? She, Class, Rudy, because we can't pretend like our music are a really big part of who we are. Even with Jamaica being so popular, it wasn't because they just love uh, Aki and Soulfish or anything like that, right? Bob Marley would have transcended through music and brought the attention to Jamaica and by extension in the Caribbean, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So you see the way more in that collaboration way with music and that sort of thing. And it's slowly transitioning to the entrepreneurial sector where lawyers are now saying, hey, I don't mind working in a startup, but I could give you a little free advice, but you got to afford to pay me. If you can't pay me, what we could do? But people now getting familiar with terms like equity through or Draper workshop and whatnot. People like, Darnel, I never even knew what equity was before. Or I might have heard about it, but I didn't know we could do that thing in Trinidad. And like, what do you mean? I was like, no, I thought that's for only big companies. And we don't even laugh because like this is a real thing, right? It's so far from removed from our society that these things are unfamiliar. So the familiarization of the terms, IP, trademarking, intellectual property, collaboration, cap table. We could don't again to your point earlier. Like we don't have to be solo founders. You don't have to just run out and keep your idea to yourself and you try and protect it so much. Now, how it's actually way more likely you get funding and support and success over time with a co-founder than a solo founded mission. That's proven
mm.
time and time again with statistics and whatnot. And I mean, if you just take it down to like, I don't know, real simple brass tacks, if we push in a car and two of us have a flat tire, if we push it together, I mean, if you're just taking real basic common sense logic, yeah, we need team support.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I find it very it's a tricky thing to dedicate a
Hmm.
significant portion of your life to an endeavor with someone. I think that notion of high degree of trust, in
Yeah.
addition to understanding that person's aptitude or
Hmm.
yeah, aptitude for grit, just like what Tim Draper would try to tease out in his survival week.
Yeah.
How much shit can you put up with? I think those are really good qualification criteria to find a co-founder to work with.
Yeah. And that point, that's a really good point. Not saying that we didn't touch on it before, but just the way you frame it is like a lot of times people think hey, I'm going to find a money man to this business with. Not saying money is important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that'll be important at some point. But more than that is, does this person have emotional composure? Could they do they panic when things are going wrong, or do they get do they go into problem solving mode, or do they complain or run away? Cause I was on a project recently, and literally, like, I know this person, we wasn't besties or anything like that. We cool enough, respect whatever, and we on the project together. And then only in the project now I realize, yo, this person emotional composure is terrible. you know, they have good acumen, they could do this stuff good, but when things go
Mm-hmm.
wrong, it's a tantrum or it's a ignore or avoidance. So that is actually the antithesis of what is needed for progress, right? So the cliche that you might hear where hard work will be talent is a real thing. If you could stay emotionally composed and weather the storm and you're willing to learn, those people actually go on to become successful way more often than this high achiever you might have known in school. He's so accustomed to gold stars, or he's so accustomed to just doing things a particular way on his own. When a team setting now, you find cohesion isn't there, or they're panicking, and those things kill businesses, as you know, right? They'll kill the business. Like, you need to be composed.
Yes. Can you talk about how investors, external investors or external Caribbean, international investors view businesses in the Caribbean and view the Caribbean as a investment area in general?
Yeah, that's twofold, right? And again, you're a realist. I'm only giving you the real on your show here.
Nah,
So
nah, big bring thing, man.
yeah,
Bring
yeah,
thing.
yeah. To be honest, some investors are very excited about the Caribbean because they're realizing, okay, it's more than just reggae and soca, right? There's some tech
Mm-hmm.
people
Mm-hmm.
coming out here. We've seen them in the companies. We've seen the startups. We've seen the people like these Waiters getting their funding from Plug and Play Tech Center and moving on to exits and that sort of thing. And we've seen collaboration. We've seen Luhu being acquired by Canoe, and it's actually a JV. So they actually working together. It's not like a ranking thing, as we will say, so they're seeing that and they're getting really excited, right? The tech features and they with the ecosystems, and we've seen founders trying every year and whatnot. So they're seeing, all right, people actually trying to build this thing in the Caribbean, and there's promise. So and as you know, as an investor, well, I'm gonna talk like for the other audience as well. I'm a very photo. So as an investor, you actually want to be first, right, in a region, because then you could be known as the harbinger of capital, and people will trust you and whatnot. But on the flip side, there are investors who are hesitant, right? For the examples that are kind of likely touched on outside of the code, where the Caribbean is fragmented and small. That's a problem. So if I want to if I want to incorporate my company in Trinidad, and I want to sell in Jamaica, I also have to incorporate my company now. At some point, once the government in Jamaica realize, okay, this product in our market for free, they're going to be like, hey, what's
Mm-hmm.
going on here? So now you're incorporate in Jamaica, and then you're incorporate in Bahamas, and you're incorporate in this country. And that lengthy process, and there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of document signing. There's a lot of time waiting because our systems aren't the most optimized as yet. It's not like EKYC. People are still manually doing things to a degree. I know Ministry of Legal Affairs just recently did a cross system where everything's online, but I've been real, it wasn't smooth. I had to
Mm-hmm.
make a phone call to get the online thing going. I had to send an email to tell them the pen, and I'm knocking. They're trying, so I hear what them trying. I'm happy that we get into that point, but just being real, investors are accustomed to, when you, as you know, you work in NVIDIA, these things are so like 10, 15, 20 years ago, like they're expecting things to be like, I click this, it opens, I click this, it opens, right? And in the Caribbean, we're not there yet. So that's the hesitance. It's like, do I want to go through this headache? Also, again, the practical, you can talk about this economics, right? So forget tech and whatever, that's the hardcore economics. How much money can I make from a product if there's only X amount of people living in this region and X amount of people living on this island? And if you want to, you want to 10x or 100x your money like a Coinbase, if you've been frank, it's going to be difficult in the Caribbean unless you find a fintech solution. I think that's why fintech is so hot, right? If you realize a lot of fintech companies trying, because fintech has easy scale based on our needs, right? We need remittances of funds, so our diaspora and our family and friends within England or whatever. We need to send money to each other. That's something that humans always going to need. So I find fintech is like the hottest space because there's a lot of room for growth and in profits in fintech for that same nature. And don't get me wrong, this could happen in health tech, this could happen in ed tech, but it's just not, the software is a little cheaper for fintech, or even like rideshare. You see rideshare's popping up. The white label software is more accessible, and the scale, you can see, right, every need to take transport, they'll try that. So investors are hopeful for the Caribbean region, like Tim and they're hopeful. and they're trying to put a hat in the ring and they're trying to support. And what I like about the Draper ecosystem as well is that they didn't just come to like pillage, right? They're actually trying to support,
Mm-hmm.
build it first, right? So it's hopeful, but we have to be aware of, okay, what is our value proposition at the Caribbean? It's not numbers. So what is our exportability? What's our collaborative point that we can try and unite the Caribbean and make this a bigger market so that we could benefit and then they could see the benefit of investing their money. So I think that's the transition point we are at now. Like there's no point in us competing in any way. Like we need to collaborate as much as possible for our own good, but into the talent pool and otherwise. And then for investors outside to like, okay, I'm seeing the cohesion where the Caribbean's getting more like a block, so we can invest in a bigger format where, it actually makes sense for our dollars or this thing is so exportable that even if it's starting Caribbean, we see where we could bring it to our side of the world. But this is where entrepreneurs have to get really more, I guess, ingenuitive, and innovative to realize, okay, yes, it's starting as a proof of concept, and that's how you should watch your island or whatever you live in the Caribbean. This is your proof of concept grounds. Even if you make some money, great, but you want to now find, okay, what's your pathway to a bigger market, Yeah.
Yes. So you spoke about, or in your bio, you spoke about getting startups to exit and things like that.
Yeah.
What do you think is a path to exit for a Caribbean-based company?
Yeah. This is my
Loaded
personal
question.
take.
It is a loaded question, by the
Yeah, and this is my personal
way.
take. A lot of
Yes.
a lot of Caribbean people they'll see Silicon Valley dream from the literal shows like Silicon Valley or they might hear the stories like
Mm-hmm.
Zuckerbergs or whatnot. It's not that it's impossible for us to have the same stories like them. Okay, actually no, it is. In the same manner in which they had their stories, we don't have the skill to just want to like hit a unicorn right away. First of all,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
due to numbers, due to exposure, etc. And something that people wouldn't even consider, right? The market in Europe or America, it doesn't have to be Silicon Valley anymore. There's so many tech hubs in America, but there's um, Salt Lake,
Atlanta,
whether it's
Miami,
Atlanta, Miami,
Texas.
even Utah, Salt Lake, Chattanooga. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many little gaps of places that doing things, even like Tulsa, they're trying to, do things. So
Oklahoma.
there's so many pockets and they are big size. In the Caribbean, for me, you find a good proof of concept and show a scalable path and take an exit from a bigger company, either regionally or internationally. Two things happen there. One, you get experience. Two, you get a load off your shoulders, right? You get a win, first of all. So
Mm-hmm.
anything you do
Mm-hmm.
after that, you come with a win on your shoulders. So personally, you have more confidence. You have a bigger network from your win and whatnot. You have bigger partners now through your exit. Exit meaning sale, right? Somebody the other day for a Darnel award application, and it's like, Darnel, the word exit is not as known as it sounds like you're leaving the company. I was like, no, it's selling the company. It's like, okay. So acquisition, I was like, yes. So even those terms, just need to clarify, right? So selling a company, it gives you a windfall of money that you could try something else, you could lick your wounds from whatever years of work you're doing, and then the network and credibility you gain is so much worth it than trying to go to the moon on a first swing, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Especially coming from a
Mm-hmm.
small location, it's not practical. I don't want to discourage anybody from dreaming big, so that's not what I'm trying to do. But being practical here, I think you should want to exit from a Caribbean startup as soon as possible, or even if you don't exit totally, partially exit. Get a partner to
Yes.
buy half a company, so you get some funds and capital, and you also get a pathway forward to scale in a bigger market, right? Because scaling to and then another thing, it sounds cool in these shows or whatever, but when you come in the Caribbean, you want to scale to America. How you competing with these companies without the proper partnerships, without the proper entryways, right? These are things people don't think about. They think about the software only. That's as you know, product is like one part of the equation. The business is
Mm-hmm.
another part. The logistics. How do I get the software in the right hands? Who do I talk to? I didn't go to Stanford. I went to Fatima. I went to UE. I don't have the network required to do X, Y, Z. That's why you need to exit or you need to at least get a JV going so that you could attach yourself to a bigger situation. And after you do that now, then you find you have more breathing room, you have more credibility, you have more network, you have more funds to get even more adventurous and more experience. That's my personal take on it. I'm not saying this is the only way, but I think this is the most practical way.
Yes.
Mm.
Can you comment on, there's this big trend to maybe not build large startups Because to some degree, like large startup in America, it's a vehicle at the end of the day, right? It's a
Right.
vehicle for others to inject, multiply capital, etc., etc. And there's a big movement to this notion of the company of one, where you have a single founder, no employees. You're not some multi-billion-dollar business. You generate a couple hundred K US or a couple million a year, and you outsource all of your work. What's your feel on that, and how applicable is that at home in the
I
Caribbean
think that
region?
makes a lot of sense. If you have the acumen to figure that out as a solo person, and you could have a contractor doing sales, or contractor doing building, or whatever the case is, and you can get to that exit as you're talking about, or you get to this point where it's not really an exit, but it isn't this massively scaled operation. We're making a couple $100,000 a year, which is nothing to smoke at.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, because even if someone else sees the potential of that company in a year or so, they have to pay you like a 5-10x multiple on your company. So if you want to sell and you start making $1 million a year, after year 5, you can sell for $10 million, right? And then,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's life changing money. Even if you had this I don't know, this goal of grandeur, of becoming a unicorn, sure. No one could argue that $10 million will change your life, whether it's in US or it's in TT dollars or Jamaican dollars or whatever, that will change your life. So I think that is a good concept. But personally, I've done this solo thing earlier in my career. I love
Mm-hmm.
working in
Mm-hmm.
teams,
Okay.
obviously, and I may have an advantage. So I'm being aware of I don't sound entitled or sound like I'm unaware. Like I went to good schools, I have good friends, I have lifelong friends. Like I know Swedish since I was in primary school, with young boys. So in my particular situation, it's easier for me to collaborate because I have long friendships with people.
Yes.
So for someone who doesn't have that, this company of one may make sense. Or it may also make sense to try to network a little bit online. And it's why I say online rather than in person. People in person tend to take you for granted. Meaning, if I don't believe in Darnel and I've known Darnel for so long, that familiarity now creates a cloud, right? And what's the phrase? Familiarity breeds contempt. Oh God,
Mm-hmm.
Mark from down the road, I can't take you serious, But when you go online and network with people, they're like, oh, this is Mark who has this project, and I'm from Canada, and he's in Trinidad, or he used to be in Trinidad, and now he's in Florida. And it's just easier to accept that view of the person because they're not too familiar with you to take you for granted, right? So I think networking online is a major hack that helped my life tremendously. Like I didn't wait for people in my country to acknowledge me in that way. I actually went online, started websites and whatnot with my friend Ryan, Augustine. He's now in Florida as well. I should actually introduce you. I remember he's in Florida. Yeah, he works at Purina now. He used to work at Zappos. And we
Mm-hmm.
used to build websites for the ministry. For ministries, we did our driving TT thing, the campaign with the whole online ticketing and going digital with the traffic ticketing. We did our website and some consulting. And we did other cool projects. So before we got local projects, to be honest, because Trinidad did not trust us. I'm going to be frank. I don't really think, oh, Dan, I had a good network. Can you just get through out there? Nah, Trinidad didn't trust us to build your websites. I don't want family, friends even trust us to build their websites, right? Even we show them like mock-ups. Why? What we did, we
Mm-hmm.
went to
Mm-hmm.
Facebook groups and show people some example websites. And like, yo, this is great. I'm like, here we're going, right? And everybody bullet here. I do our website free. That's for portfolio, basically. Put that time in.
Yes.
And it's like, yo, I say, all I want you to do is share it with your network, your family, share it in your website groups, and that led to a paid gig. And then I get my first website I got paid was like 200 USD, which is not much money as you know for a website. But for me, that's all. I'm a real entrepreneur. So in my mind, that's all I need. I know getting paid for my skill. That's it. So I know
Mm-hmm.
200
Mm-hmm.
charge, return to a $500 charge, return to $800 charge, return to $1,500 charge, and it kept going like that, right? So online networking to me is the solution to many of our imposter syndromes or our nobody want to hire me in my country. Build a portfolio online and let a stranger pay. That's a phrase as well that I love that I saw in the last couple of years. Strangers will make you rich before your friends do. So don't
Ooh, that bad. That real bad.
yes,
Ooh.
don't wait on friends and family to patronize you. A stranger who don't know you, who can't disrespect you because he don't know you, he'll make you rich way faster. And it's not counterintuitive until you explain it. Because if I don't know you and I know you as Mr. Whoever, you're gonna talk to me like Mr. Whoever. To be like, oh God, that's Darnel from the sandbox. Nah, this is
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Whoever, and they'll deal with you with more respect. And then now your same friend and family, hey, look, a Canadian company paid Darnel money the other day for our website. Yeah, let me put. That's what actually went. So literally after we did the online projects, then people in Trinidad was like, oh, they're now. Foreign people think, oh, yeah, we should work with you now.
Mhm.
It's just unnecessary evil. You can complain until you blue in your face. That's just reality. Do what works,
Nana is, I think, out of all the interviews that I've done, you're probably one of the few people that has said to network online. And I think it's the one piece of advice I give anyone at home. Because oftentimes I think we adopt the Silicon Valley mindset because, like you're saying, this is what we're exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And we adopt the mannerisms and the ways of thinking. When systems are efficient, there's a very large market to sort of penetrate. And that market is also educated that they are
Mm-hmm.
being sold to
Correct.
for those various types of products. It's in their psyche versus at home where maybe technology is not as pervasive.
Mm-mm.
So it's more of a vision versus the actual implementation reality. And I really love that you said to network online because, hmm, hmm. From yeah, like I live in Florida and I have networks in Silicon Valley and all these types of things, and I've met tons of people online and this notion of you giving away work for free. I think that's a big. A lot of people are afraid to do that. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, it's a couple of things. I think that one, the ego part of you, like I work hard on this, why give myself for free, right? But you have to look at
Mm,
value as more than money. So when you see value as money, you're lost already. Sorry to say. And I know people have bills. I know people have commitments. So that's not
mm-hmm,
being unrealistic. But if you're not willing to give away at least one or two of your whether it's a song you're doing as an artist, or you're a tech man and you're building a website, or you're a photographer, take a picture of somebody cool or notable, do it for free because then that will bring you clients, that will bring you traction, that will bring you credibility. Because the same way, you gotta be real, right? People, if you bring it, forget tech. I like to make these kind of, I guess, managed examples so that we understand it's just one mindset, right? The reason why you buy
mm-hmm,
KFC if you're into fast food, right? I don't eat fast food, right? But if you're into fast food like that and you buy KFC, their brand name is what made you line up and buy. So don't pretend like you just buy from you just see a man standing inside the road and just give him a try.
mm-hmm,
Somebody in the network will say, hey, whoever's brave enough or whatever, and I tried to come to the last week and it was good, true. And then myself is skeptical. And then somebody else tell you, hey, I tried. So if you get more cognizant of how you can make your own purchases, which is why you need again as a product person, you need to discover, you need to do user research, you need to listen to feedback, you need to be more self-aware, like you need to learn what root cause analysis is. So you can be like, okay, the root cause of my purchase is actually based on my friend saying this. So then if I have my own company, then I definitely need to have reviews, right? Which is why things like Yelp and things exist, right? But what becomes common to us now in conversation is when you're now starting out, and I think about myself at 15 or whatever, it wasn't that commonplace and I wasn't thinking along those lines like, if I'm doing this thing, they should not respect me. Like, why are they respecting me? What are they respecting? So from that point of view, once people understand that, then they'll have less ego or less hurt of I need to give this away for free. Like, yeah, I need to give this away for free. No, right? If
mm-hmm,
I give it away
mm-hmm.
for free, it's when I get a paid client, basically.
Yes.
So that's our learning, that little mindset. There's little levels, have to keep switching in. There's those little levels. But we're not taught it in school, right? It's more self-learning online, which we had the pressure of doing in our internet era versus our parents. So I don't ever take that for granted.
So one thing that occurs to me, so I really like KFC. If
Yeah,
I was a man, I go eat KFC right through. When I was young, if I didn't get KFC, I'd be crying and okay, I was bad. But you know what's funny? I have never eaten KFC in America. I've been in America
right.
since 2006. And the reason I bring up this example is the power of taking a global brand and contextualizing it to your
Mm-hmm.
region and how sticky that can be. And as you take a global brand, you tailor it to your region and you add the elements that really make the people in that region feel good about the product.
Mm-hmm.
I think is something that maybe a lot more people at home in the Caribbean region should probably, definitely start thinking about in their own products as they think about leveraging the brand capital that these big American or global brands have. So that was cool.
Yeah, the
Um,
KFC thing is really like I used to ride KFC when I was younger as well, especially after the club. But as I started heading close to the 30, and I don't, when you're younger, things don't really pack on weight, right? Because you're always
yeah,
playing
yeah, yeah.
football, you're always doing this, you're always doing that. So you didn't realizing, you thinking these things, not as caloric as they are or sugary or unhealthy because you're always active. But when you have more commitments and you're trying to have a meeting online and you're trying to do this thing, you only have like an hour to go to the gym or whatever. You're not running around whole day playing football. You're like, oh, okay, these things actually contribute to weight gain. I need to hold off, And on that, even the whole topic of you saying like you didn't eat KFC in America, but you eat in Trinidad. And foreigners who come to Trinidad understand why, right? Because they're like, yo, KFC
Mm-hmm.
does not taste like this at home at all. You'll have a different, you'll have a whole different thing going on here in Trinidad. So this is also what we want to do with Draper, right? We want to be okay when it comes to Draper Caricom, whether it's Trinidad, Jamaica. It must feel like it makes sense to your context. It mustn't be some Louisiana seasoning. It's not. I'm not saying Nigerian,
Mm-hmm.
but it should be something that I know Trinis love in Trinidad, and this is what we could relate to. This is unique to our particular need. So yeah.
Yes. There was I was watching an interview with, is it Buju? One of the dancehall artists, one of the older guys. And he was talking about someone was saying that to some degree Afrobeats is kind of clashing with dancehall or they're
Mm-hmm.
competing against each other. And he made some very powerful comments from the perspective of the mistake that dancehall artists make in the Caribbean is that they only speak to themselves. They speak to that
Mm-hmm.
local region. They do not speak to a global audience. The topics that they choose are just, yeah, about things in Jamaica and et cetera, or even branching out to the Caribbean a little bit. And he highlighted a lot of the Afrobeats artists and how their lyrics were very simple, super global. Everyone could resonate with partying or et cetera, et cetera. Their beats were constructed in a certain way to carry melody. So I found that extremely powerful from the perspective of sometimes we blame a lot of people for maybe us not making a lot of progress, whereas it's actually incumbent upon us to pay attention globally and to some degree you're not changing what you are, but you're playing the game to a different degree. Do you see a shift in the average person starting to adopt that pervasiveness mindset?
I love that topic. I like the topics to bring up. And the reason why I like topics as well, because I think music and culture is so pervasive in everything we do. Because, I mean, that's what shapes some of our thoughts sometimes, right? The content. And like you rightfully say, when I was younger, so I cannot answer this and go forward back to your point, right? When I was younger,
Mm-hmm,
I listened
mm-hmm.
to way more dancehall, right? Because you're young, and
Okay.
when you're young, you're rebellious, and dancehall music is nice, it's rebellious. And as you get older and you get more sensitized to different issues, they get different types of friends. I'm like, I want to play this funny. Like I'll play till Shiloh around my foreign friends, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Lovely storytelling, topics of whatever, loving moms, all kind of thing, right? Cool. But then I won't play Boom Bye Bye around certain my friends because it's actually offensive. But when I was younger, I was screaming
Yes.
that out now, and I mean, if I was screaming out that song because yeah, young and cool, yeah, look how edgy I am, right? That's what you're doing when you're younger. But as you get older now, as you correctly say, your music taste, or at least it should, it kind of matures where I don't want to offend people like this, I don't want to play this bullshit song around my friends. I could leave this out. I love bullshit a legend. Yeah, I could do it all this song in my repertoire for my friends. And that's something that, in that same, I guess, token, dancehall and soca, right? From Trinidad, so talking about soca, needs to understand and to evolve as well. Afrobeats, as I said, is more global music, right? In terms of the topics will focus around love, dance, heartbreak, whatever, and dancehall has that, right? But the BPM may not be palatable for our European audience. And that's something that the dancehall producers need to become aware of. So it's not that I'm saying water down your dancehall or soca music. Have
Mm-hmm.
your how you say it? You have your menu items that are niche. So you have your bacon shack for your trinis and whatnot. That is what gets you here and to switch on your core audience, right? You have your niche target audience. You also have to serve them. But now you have to understand that okay, on a higher level of things, if I want to export my music now to a bigger audience, the music have be so spicy, basically. Like they don't have like we eat a lot of hot food in the Caribbean. They can't handle that kind of heat. If Bushu want to
Mm-hmm.
be out touring in Europe, he can be saying boom bye bye and so. Like say that for Jamaica if you want. Don't go on tour and say Fireband Room. You know what I mean? And I
Right.
think that's a mistake people that we love like a Bushu made. He's trying to be overly, they could say keeping it too real sometimes to hurt you and you end up in your own way. Like the Spider-Man pointing at himself, like, who am I way? How me man like.
Mm-hmm.
Korean people are in your own way. Like you can't want to be anti-Semitic or you can't want to be homophobic and then cross over into a land where people are actually living this lifestyle. Like you have to choose your battles. You know what I mean? You can't impose
Right.
your ideology to that point in the music where you're closing doors on yourself. And if that's what you're doing, sure, there's no complaint that you're not global, right? Because this is not a global mindset. You need to get more accepting, you get more open, and then you need to travel more. You need to get a new set of friends. And that's in, again, don't throw away your old friends, but instead of arguing with somebody from that side, I think you need to seek to collaborate in terms of dialogue more. Or why do you live this lifestyle, Mr. Man or Mr. Lady, Miss Lady, or like what is it about your country that doesn't allow you to eat spicy food? And they'll tell you, and then you realize, okay, wait, I've been obnoxious, so I've burned up your mouth the whole time. It's like, yeah, and it's like, wow, you can even enjoy the food. And if you turn on the pepper now, you realize, wow, this bacon shack is amazing. We want to order 10,000 every month, which is probably more
Mm.
than your little tongue in whatever island you're in. So just from being a little more empathetic, right? Which is also a really big product manager thing, right? Like empathy is how you connect with users and connect your needs and the goals of the company with the management and the internal team and your clients, whether it's B2B, business or B2C. Listening is what gets you ahead in life. Like another segue too far, but on the topic, right? All musicians need to take feedback more, or DJs as well. You need to take feedback more. This is what people don't like. This is how you should tweak it. Don't change that. You're not saying sell out yourself, but you have to understand that what gets you here, no one gets you there. So even if you at this level of stardom, the globe has a different demand from you, and it's up to you. Am I up the challenge to listen and kind of get in tune and not be obnoxious and remember that, I'm serving an audience. So I need to listen to the audience, and the audience isn't from Trinidad, they're from Ukraine. And if I ask them, what do you know Ukraine? Nothing, boy. So, well, all right, you need to listen to the audience. You need to figure out what's their culture. What is their version of, I don't know, oppression that they face. So what is their carnival? What is their release, 'Cause then how will you serve them if you don't know them?
No, that's very good point. Talk to me about online networking and how
Yeah.
would you go about it? So you're in high school, you just came out of college, or even you're a early mid-stage professional in the Caribbean. How
Hmm.
would you grow your network in 3 to 6 months?
Make a great LinkedIn. And I'm like, damn, how do I make a great LinkedIn? I go, YouTube it. Like, you can YouTube everything, right? Make a good
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn. Or even now, if you ChatGPT for pointers, right? ChatGPT, you are expert in creating LinkedIn profiles. I'm Darnel, and this is what I'm into. How would you think I should structure my bio? Like now, we even have that even extra step of ease now, right? With programs like OpenAI. Make a LinkedIn, make a good profile, put what you're trying to connect to your profile. So if you're a comedian, I make jokes, I make people laugh, whatever. You're a tech person, I'm into tech, I'm into startups, I'm into learning. You want to teach, I actually teach XYZ, I want to get, like, make your bio very about who you are. It ought to be lengthy. And reach out to people. And that's a thing I know Korean people not comfortable doing. We're very prideful. Reach out to people. Get rejected. Get left unread. Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, so what? Like,
Mm.
reach out. And it's funny I said that even in high school, right? Because even when I was in high school, before we had LinkedIn and any of these cool programs, right? We didn't have Facebook as yet. It was just MSN Messenger. There are people who I know right in my life up to the day I met on MSN simply from just going trying chat rooms and asking, hey, you know anybody new? Literally, this, and I showed, this sounds correct, wild to like the Gen Z people on millennials who only know Instagram, Facebook, and they could actually see your profiles, right? There's a time when you're just on ICQ or MSN and there's just an intro we had a profile pictures yet,
Now you just had a username and that was it, right?
Yeah, and like this is Dana from Fatima Boy. Hey, this is this girl from International. And that's how I actually met a friend literally from International. Like a football friend in between both of us in CIC or something. And we had like a big kind of
Mm-hmm.
chat, chat group. So like 10 of us. And you just kind of introduce yourself. And you're falling. You're not like, you're not cool or
You
nothing.
know, look at that.
We are after school. Yeah, I use that. Yeah, we after school. We bored. We want to meet people. We stuck in our homes. We have no license. We like 13 years old. Yeah, put us. We fall in, and it worked, right? Because there's no pride. And next thing you know, hey, I into this too. Hey, I used to play football now, but I do this. Hey, you saw Dragon Ball Z too? And episode 5. You were less self conscious, right? And I think now, even though you have way more access, some people actually still hesitant because it's like, okay, my image is out there, and this is who I am. And people start taking themselves a little too seriously now with the whole image thing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, back to the core of the question: make a profile, say who you are, say what you want, say what you want to give, and just talk to people, reach out. That's it,
Mm-hmm.
outreach. But as simple as that sounds, I know, people don't like rejection. They don't like embarrassment. So they're just gonna
Yep.
hope people come to them and stay on the fence, and that's it. You know?
Hmm. Just for those that are listening, if you're maybe not from Trinidad or not older in Trinidad and the Caribbean, the word fallen means you're sort of minding people's business. So you just come in on the
Yeah,
outskirts of a conversation and you're just listening, and then you randomly chime in. So you're that person who's not necessarily welcome coming in from the outside. So just context on from a vocabulary perspective. So
yeah. That's a good
yeah,
Urban
this
Dictionary
notion of
definition.
yeah, that's a good term there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wanted to share a perspective on this rejection thing. For instance, so I run this conference called the Sudden Data Science Conference in Atlanta. So you're
Mm-hmm.
you're looking for speakers, and I just reached out to I think about 30 something people on LinkedIn.
Right.
Okay, and I think one or two responded. And there's a lot of thought about, oh crap, these people are gonna view me as X, Y, and Z. I use ChatGPT to help me craft my message a lot better, and that was one of the most amazing experiences that I've had recently. In terms of, I do think it's in fact the most powerful tool I think out there now.
For sure.
Um, so I really hope that those that are listening, especially folks who are young, because I think the young people will have the hardest time simply because people who are older, they're already in the system, they can get jobs, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many new jobs are being created in the market in the Caribbean region,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really incumbent upon the young people to like think of yourself as a global employee, not a Trini employee, not a Jamaican employee. At least if I was home, I wouldn't pay attention to anything locally, to be honest, just to make sure that my future was secured. You know, what's your thoughts on that? Do you see a shift of people trying to obtain global work now that remote work is
For
more
sure.
commonplace?
For sure. And there's a post Gary we actually posted recently as well about Gen Z's be coming up as entitled. Whereas it's not that they're so entitled, it's like we've accepted poor employer practices because we didn't have options. So now we have
Mm-hmm.
options. Employers
Mm-hmm.
are realizing, oh, our practices weren't cool. No, it wasn't cool. People just didn't have better options. But now that I could make a PayPal account, link my Visa debit from JMMB, and I could now
Mm-hmm.
accept websites, payments online. This was happened in 2016. I didn't take out, I didn't go back to our corporate jobs in 2016 because of that, right? Literally, like I was not able to make money online. Of course, it wasn't the salary I was making at first, obviously,
Yes.
and that was for me. That was okay. The freedom was worth it. I didn't have any kids. I still don't have any kids. So I mean, luckily, the position I was in, I've been mindful that there are people different situations, right? But my situation
Yes.
was, I'm not married. I don't have any kids. Yeah, for sure. I'm not trying to like stay in the system and I could get paid online and use PayPal and whatnot. Um, but there's one thing, and I am also funny enough because I actually lived this. I sometimes I have a lot to say about it, right? Because even in terms of the employment situation, last year I actually had an opportunity to work with Mozilla, right? Networking online, a product manager group, blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah. And it's like Daniel, like interviewed whatever. I did my practice online, product gym, thing, whatever, and good interview. They like how I was thinking. They like some problems I solved already, like my openness. Then I hit the wall. The wall that a lot of young people may face from the Caribbean is work visas, right? So,
Mm.
as you know, well, but this is not common information at all, especially if you're new to this. So, you need a work visa if you want to work in America, for example, in the tech scene, right? The most common one is the H1B,
H1B.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lottery system. It happens in March as you cut off, and then you find out in October or September if you've been accepted. The tricky part of that is most people wouldn't want to sponsor you or wait that out because it's like between March and October, they're not getting any benefit or value from you as an employee,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have not been accepted by the lottery system as yet. So that's a lot of career people don't get through that way. So what some people do is they try the risky way of traveling on a traveling visa,
Visitor.
a
Mm-hmm.
visitor visa, and trying to get a job that way. Sometimes it works out, And because you're in person, the sponsorship thing happens. But then sometimes you don't get through, and then I guess it's like a waste of time. Or sometimes you may have even run over the length of time you should be in the country for, and then that's another panic or headache. And then there's other things that I discovered along the journey when I was looking for. I was like, because I mean, if I was looking for Mozilla, I mean, I'm making X amount of money in USD.
Correct.
That's like executive level salary at the highest level in Trinidad. When you convert it, I was excited, I was ready to go. But then I didn't the sponsorship thing, right? And unlike not and this is not the song anyhow. I don't choose my words carefully, but being frank, our our employee and employer laws aren't as stringent in the Caribbean, right? Let's put it that way. Whereas with
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Sam Monday, everything is EIN, tax ID, IRS, da, da, da. So they do all the
Mm-hmm.
checks up
Mm-hmm.
front. So there's no just getting into the system. Like you have to have a book visa planned out, no employer taking a risk on you, just like that. The only kind of jobs you'll get will be Airbnb kind of situation, a kind of freelancer contractor thing you might get through. But so those are things we have to figure out and navigate and consider. And I think this should be more our topic in terms of Ministry of Labor or Ministry of Digitization and Ministry of Education. These are the topics as I talking to them more and more, and I bring up to them that there's a reality that a lot of them don't understand. And you might say, oh, Daniel, why would you encourage people to get a work visas in America? Why do I need to know what's an old visa for my citizens to leave my country and get brain drain? But the contrary, because like you correctly said, there are a lot of remote work. You can now get paid from Trinidad with remote work. You never had to travel for like
Mm-hmm.
1 month, set up yourself and come back. Now you have more taxable income for your country. So it's actually
Yes.
in your interest for your local citizens to have these social and I guess work mobility to make
Mm-hmm.
more money to put back into your same economy. A lot of people don't want to leave Trinidad, They just want to make a better salary. Or not even better
Yes.
salary. They want to be employed because as you know, a lot of positions that we have, like if you mark with some Trinidad now as a senior data scientist, I'm not sure what company you're gonna work for that going to utilize your talents to the level. You understand what I'm saying? So
I was
name
there.
that remuneration. We know they can't pay how they pay and they're paying you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
Mm-hmm.
from a marketing fulfill on a daily basis. You're gonna be put in some kind of oddball position that they kind of using their talents for, but not really, and somebody above you telling you what to do that don't understand what's going on. And that is frustration that's going on in our generation. And even more so now, because we could see different, right? We have social media. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing Mark and somebody else from the Caribbean do this thing over there. I don't want to be here anymore, right? So I think the gap needs to be built. Yes, entrepreneurs are building new world, but we can't act like policy and government isn't important. And I think the bridge we need more public-private partnerships and discussions so that our citizens and our kids and our progeny they don't feel trapped in their country. They feel like okay, I don't mind being here because I could do X and Y, and then the country also benefits from their, I guess, curiosity and their alternative career path, right? Because I can tell you right now, there are a lot of engineers and lawyers I know that not happy or they're not even employed or you know what I mean because
Mm-hmm.
they pushed that for so long. We have so much doctors now, we have so much lawyers now. When something goes wrong in IT in our government, thing is done for 3 days. You know why? We don't have that much IT people. You know what I mean? Or they're
Mm-hmm.
not as the curriculum not even up to date to where the world is, basically. So they didn't even know how to run this new language basically to get it back up in time. They're called a specialist, they're pay specialist X amount of money versus you can partner with Draper and we could have a boot camp on this particular thing, teach about 30 people in the IT department this thing, and now we are skilled to handle it, you know? But yeah, back to the core thing, remote work is definitely changing people's appetite for discovery and wanting more, especially because of, the visual social media age.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm remote. So what's your view on what you call this thing? Brain drain.
Yeah, I think brain drain is a term
Give me
that
the
is,
real, eh? Give me the real. Don't be holding
yeah.
back nothing there.
Brain
Real
drain is
talk,
a
real
real
talk.
thing. So we're not denying that brain drain is a real thing. But I think brain drain is actually perpetuated unconsciously by lazy countries. When I say lazy countries, not the host
Mm.
citizenship is lazy. The administration, the government, because they're not tapped into what the current trends are and they're just running business as usual as if it's 1980 or whatever, people are leaving in droves. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, it's more rampant
Mm-hmm.
in Caribbean because of how limited tech jobs are and how limited creative jobs are. Or you might you might go on a job description and you'll see Karen wrote somebody making a critique and laughing at this job description have three different titles in one. You're saying digital manager, you had to do social management, you had to do graphic creation, you had to do a little bit of video editing. And it's like, you all have no idea that these are three specialized skill sets that should be paid at individual salary each.
Mm-hmm.
So when
Mm-hmm.
this person gets fed up now and they have an aunt in Florida or they have an uncle in Europe and they leave the country, how could you be angry at brain, and blame it on brain drain? No, you did not create an environment that facilitated the advancement of your society. You did not plan for tomorrow. It's come like if we only kept dirt roads and we didn't make a pitch road and we keep exporting pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't need pitch here. We could export and make money. And no, so now we can't have a RAV4 on the road or something because we only have mud roads, right? You have the old jeeps that could go up the hills or whatever. So you have to kind of structure your society always. So what's the next advancement that we need to get to the next step? And I think we got caught up in the Caribbean and building. Like, so we have a lot of queries, we have a lot of construction going on, but we don't have a lot of technical infrastructure being deployed, right? Which is a problem. So that's why brain drain exists. Brain drain is not some mystical phenomenon that happened out of nowhere. You did not create an environment that would have fostered Mark and they to stay in the country and become senior data scientist. So Mark has to leave. Mark has a purpose. He has a life. He has money to make. He has dreams he wants to actualize. He actually wants to help other people from his country, and he can't do it from here. He has to leave to do it. So,
So
you know,
yeah, I see things slightly differently. I actually think brain drain is very important for a country's development. I'll tell you why.
okay, sure.
Now, imagine if there's no people from the Caribbean who are available in Silicon Valley.
Right.
No people from the Caribbean, the entire Caribbean diaspora, they all work in, let's say, non-high tech jobs. Okay. And the reason why high tech is important is this notion of scale. So
Mm-hmm.
people with a little bit of work in software, you can scale to millions, billions,
Correct.
whatever in revenue. So imagine none of those people were there. You technically now have zero representation of that skill set
Mm,
within your global network.
correct.
And what I've discovered, at least through this podcast, is meeting the caliber of Caribbean talent that exists in all of these large organizations. And the main challenge is there was not a mechanism with which to, just like you're saying in fintech and remittances, there is not a network to pipeline perspective and skill training back to the original countries, because every single person from the diaspora wants to give back, because when they go to bed at night and they're making their six-figure US salary, they think about, hey, what if I was in the country, I did not have these opportunities, I was a young person, I personally would be extremely depressed in terms of what my personal outlook would be for the future, especially if I had no contacts. You didn't have the family who had, certain things in the country. And I
Mm-hmm.
think my personal mission in a lot of this stuff is to remind people that there are people out here who are from your region who want to give you opportunities. However,
Mm-hmm.
it's actual that selection process is the hardest one. To reaching those people is hard. I'm not a big depender on government type thing, just because there are different incentives that they have in order to keep the ship running as it is, because that's how you make the most amount of money. So I think when people at home, and this is for the part of the audience that is at home, your own core determination to make a better future for yourself and leveraging technology, whether or not you like it, to be honest. Because if you like things that are, or either that or grow food, because I think growing food is actually the true core skill set after, or I can't make any money, or but I could eat to survive, I'll tell you some just
Correct.
now. I think that those are some very important things to consider, that
Mm-hmm.
now that I'm a senior data scientist at NVIDIA, I get to understand what AI is on a world at a world class level. So now I can technically teach people at home how to become world class AI scientists, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
So brain drain is actually very important to. I'm saying the concept of brain drain, meaning your people leave their country to go make a life elsewhere. But the most important component is to make sure that you keep a bridge. So there should be a diaspora bridge where people from the diaspora could truly contribute back in some scalable fashion. I think even with things like this podcast, we're making some headway
Mm-hmm.
there to some degree, but
100%.
there's a lot
Yeah.
of work to be done.
I mean, this is how it is, right? We are the very nascent stage of it. And by the way, I hope I just talking about the one view of how I know the country
Yeah, yeah,
moved it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So your view, just to add to that, 100% agree, of course, because this is what has even gotten me for the Draper license and because I did other people in
Mm-hmm.
diaspora and knowing what is possible, it was well, for me at least mentally, it was easy for me to make these transitions knowing that, hey, I have a friend over there, or, hey, I could do this, I could prove this. And like you said, brain drain is actually a growth tool, right? It's like a growth hack because now we have these, what's it, and I call them, we have these Caribbean satellites out there now,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Through a mark, through this one or that one. You know, you have this whole group with like Larry Hercules and they like all these Trini people and who do in this position that people don't even know exist, right? The people in some, and that's the next thing that I
We're
see
like
you doing.
covert ops. We're just in all these
Yeah,
companies.
yeah, and I hope you keep doing a podcast and this podcast. I hope you collaborate with Draper something you can talk about after the call, right? Because I'm exploring AI now as well from a product management standpoint, from the whole prompt engineering situation as well as
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
from the whole satellite connection, right, with the Draper community and whatnot, right? Community is really big with us. Even when he's building logos today, and I was advising him, the community aspect is always the main thing for me because how do you now get this tool to get the diaspora interested, right? And well,
Mm-hmm.
you got to exit, so that's already been taken care of. But each product that come on the Caribbean, if it's a ride share, whatever the case is, how ride share is difficult because I mean there's Uber in other countries, but that's saying like the community aspect and linking your diaspora is the main component for explosive Caribbean growth. And not as growth in terms of your particular app and your money. I'm talking about exactly what you're speaking about, the knowledge, right? The more you can connect to satellites like a Mark, etc., is the more you see the positive effects of brain drain. Because now Mark say down, hey, I know you're looking at this course of the cases and this making sense, but you know, honestly, on a practical level, we are ahead of that by far. I had my way young game with this. And when Darnel learns that now, and I talking to the ministry of digitization, I'm talking to whether it's Tika or somebody in Trinidad and in the region. No, Mark from NVIDIA said X, Y, and Z. And in my son, I could go, you name dropping, but no, I name dropping and say something Caribbean people need to get accustomed to as well, right? Name dropping is
Mm-hmm.
important because the
Yes.
reason why you should listen to Mark, Mark pay his dues. Like NVIDIA is not a jokey company. And if he's a senior data scientist, I think you know what he's talking about when we talk about AI, right? So even if they want to take Darnel word for it, no, Mark will corroborate XYZ. And you know what? Let's have a workshop with Mark with Draper. So when Mark is in the country for summer, let's say in August, he can come to the summit and talk about this in more detail. Okay, you can't make it as yet, and also August is too far. Mark, is it kind of free in June? Could we do an online talk? We put a screen up and we have people, you know, like this has to become way more commonplace. So that brain drain isn't seen as a negative, but it's kind of like these are our Caribbean expeditionists informing us
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
the world in a real way, right? Where it's no longer brain drain. It's almost like knowledge extension, right? So there's a different perspective on the same thing. We are privileged to have our Caribbean people leaving the country to tell us about what's going on. But again,
At to warn you about what is coming.
auto warning, even like, don't put your don't put your login details in this app, just take all the information. Like that's something that people, people just click details and condition and click yes, but it's like no. This one could
Mm-hmm.
hurt
Mm-hmm.
you. Like, like people thought, oh god, TikTok, Instagram is the same thing. No, TikTok is way worse. Like they're doing X, Y, and Z in the back end. Like it's not the same thing as Instagram. Yes, they take your data, but TikTok is on a whole different level, right? So that's that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
information because I actually know someone who works at TikTok who like 2 years ago explained it to me. When I was like, oh god, it's the same thing. It's like, no, Dana. No. I work here, I've been honest with you, is actually on a very uncomfortable level that what they do to
They
information.
know.
Yeah, like they could tell you when you're driving, they get location. I was like, what? It's like, yeah, it's not just limited to the app, it's actually the entire phone, And I was
Yeah, and
like,
they could
okay,
pull all your files, and it was quite
yeah, I was like
interesting.
that. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know it was that crazy. And again, only because of the brain drain, I was able to be aware of how bad it was. I didn't read about it
Mm-hmm.
myself. I had too much things to read. There's so much information. I didn't have time to read everything. So
Yes.
yeah,
So
definitely back up your
l-
points
let,
about brain drain.
I wanted to ask you about let's talk AI. What's your view on it in the region? And let I guess more specifically ChatGPT because that I think is the most accessible form
Right.
of AI/machine learning.
Well, yeah, as you know, I appreciate it quite. You could tell me about it, right? But yeah, it's been around for so long in many different feedback mechanisms that we didn't realize machine learning and different parts of it, right? How we get reviews and how we even might generate, hey, do you want to see this video next? Like people didn't know that that was AI the entire time, right? But the most, I guess, the most commercialized version or the most in your face one is definitely the ChatGPT, right? The fastest growing company ever, whatever, for obvious good reasons, right? Now it could help edit your own contracts. It could you could do so many things. It could create a social media rollout once you get prompts properly. And I think, okay, not everybody has the aptitude or time in their life to want to become an AI expert like a Mark or what have you. But what they can do is at least understand how to create prompts so that their life could be a little easier. So for me, the application I see this AI you're actually helping creating people with would be, all right, you can't afford assistant. How could you now learn how to prompt to get this done faster? I think that's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the biggest takeaway for anybody creating the business right now. How do I learn to prompt good enough to at least get assistance with my business, even if it's a brick and mortar or whatever the case is? You know, because you could accent literally, it's almost like you could accent anything. This is like, I guess, what they wanted Siri and Alexa thing to be. ChatGPT is that
Mm-hmm.
level of assistance, right? So without getting too nerdy and even going outside of my depth, this on that basic level. Don't look at it as, oh my god, they're going to take our jobs, and no, like we've been here before. Like computers to take away jobs. Technically, it did in some degrees, but then it created new jobs as well, right? And that's a real human nature thing. We always look at the gloom and doom first, right? Oh my God, we're gonna lose jobs. It's like, okay, what are jobs gonna be created? No
Mm-hmm.
prompt engineers, that thing that didn't even exist before, right? They're gonna
Yeah.
be many, and they're gonna be many new jobs. It's probably gonna be okay. What is he? I'm sure, as you know, and you could again school us about, right? Context is hard for AI, right? Because that's a human cognitive thing. So now, of course, AI is giving information, but now we might need human context drivers. I don't know, some term that yes, the information making sense, but now we have these context drivers to now answer people on the back end or something. Like don't I don't want people to look at the gloom and doom of because we're going to lose jobs. All of that's going to be created as well. We just have to kind of reposition how we see ourselves in market and also pay attention to the new trends of job applications and position will be announced in the market. You know, that's how I view it. I want you to tell me more about it because I know there's your thing.
I have a, a number of feelings. I think if anyone is listening to this and you live at home being the Caribbean region, not in the US, I think the advantage that people in the US have is that if I live in Florida and I don't like it, I could go to New York. If I don't like live in New York, I go to California. I could go to. You have this ability to physically move to a different job location.
Mm-hmm.
In the Caribbean region, you don't necessarily have that, and I think the game gets very different there. In addition, because people can be accelerated with things like ChatGPT, I don't need a lot of people to perform the previous tasks that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this thing that, well, it's a good system to control people to some degree. In that, if I don't remind you that it's all about leverage when you're in school, meaning you go work for an employer that employs leveraging your time, energy,
Correct.
and mental capital in order to profit. Just like everyone uses forms of leverage, you won't actually pay attention to the fact that, hey, if each of my employees can be 10 times more productive and I have X amount of units of work to get done, I don't need most of them because they're an expense at the end. Every employee is an expense at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people like, oh, you shouldn't fire people on, but at the end of the day, like, why do I have to keep you on payroll if I can get this task done significantly cheaper? And I think people really need to be honest with themselves about that particular aspect and how replaceable their job is. Every day I think about job replacement. And I've thought a lot about that as I've spent time in machine learning, and you see when you get a particular task to perform really well, you're like, oh, someone who's doing that, that's now a product that does that person's job. And I think,
Right.
and this is why I'm so focused on, like, silently on food security, just because if you
Likewise.
think about everything comes from, that's like the true root of, food grows, and that's like the true genesis of everything. Everything else is to some degree a derivative.
Yeah.
But one of the points I wanted to reiterate there is that I'm sure most people have heard, or if you have not heard, it is not AI will replace you. It is someone that is using AI will replace you,
Correct.
and they will. They're coming for your job because, hey, if I can make 10 times the money in the same amount of time, people are going to do it because the game is to accumulate capital. And I think a lot of people will be affected. It does kind of, I'm, I guess I'm not necessarily hopeful that governments will be like, oh, you can't use this and I can't, because I think it is a progressive thing. It gives people an ability to break away from the monotony of certain tasks and enables them to
Correct.
express sort of their true nature, their true creativity in whatever gifts that they were given as a human being. So I'm very excited for it, but there's definitely going to be for people who are not willing to learn something new, and I think this is the era of forced learning upon people.
Yeah.
People will be forced to learn by this notion of starvation or suffering. And I'm personally very concerned for the students in school because, and I think even more so in the Caribbean, like in America, you depending on where you live, like you get exposed, like okay, school is like,
Yeah.
and but this is the advantage of social media too, because a child down in the country who doesn't know much but has a social media account can see that there's a different way to navigate the world. And I think for young people, even professionals, to think of themselves as having a global career based on their expertise, and school is a game, check the boxes, because the
Yeah.
majority of things that you learn in school is,
Not applicable.
yeah, they're not applicable. They'll be done by some other machine. And your ability to one create, I think creation, I'm very excited that this is the creation generation. And even for myself, continuing to push on this multifaceted career,
Hmm.
meaning I'm not defined as a senior data scientist. I'm a podcaster, I'm a fitness trainer. So I have all of these different skills with which I can make a living and, enjoy your life and things like that. So that's the point I wanted to share on that one. Um, okay.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a comment on that. Yeah, the C students for real, bro. Like, if you're on this track of like Form 1 to Form 5 and after do these subjects and do CXC, like the song kind of there's the only glue man who might have similar, I guess, in this way is that those five
Mm,
years, bro, if you were in a more dynamic curriculum, you could be an amazing talent in the world. Not
mm-hmm,
as AI,
mm-hmm,
whatever, it's photography or whatever. When you have to like learn biochemistry and you have to do choose earth sciences or whatever, and then by the time you reach, let's say, your parents really believe in the school and it name after Form 5, you got to go Form 6 now. 2 more years
mm-hmm,
of antiquated learning. Some of them are applicable, don't get me wrong. Of course, you need to languages, you need to know principles of business, accounting, whatever. So I'm not saying no. But in terms of tech, the tech aspect of which we're talking about, they don't even teach tech properly in the Caribbean in terms of they might teach some way computer science curriculum that not even applicable to today's anything. So it's just
mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm,
after you leave school now and you realize you're not gonna become a freelancer or whatever, it's too late. Which is why with Drip, I want to make sure we have the accelerator programs. We're gonna have workshops on UI UX design so that you don't have to make a flyer for parties, bro. Like you have a really good skill and you could actually design a whole
mm-hmm,
interface and you could be making six-figure salary. Or you could be creating a whole industry in your country, more than just leaving the country and making a salary. You cannot become the UI team for the government or for private and for this. And then people realize, okay, Caribbean apps are looking better now. But they have to have the exposure in the first place and the teaching to have these new tool sets. And I want to obviously get it in schools. I want to hopefully one day Fatima will have a UI program or something where it's like you're already good at graphic design, you have a graphic design program to learn the fundamentals. You're getting good at that, is a UI track. Like this is where school needs to go, This kind of math and English thing for 7 years. I don't know what they think will happen to our children and our nephews and whatever, like that's the same concern I have, to be honest. That is it. That is the main concern. You're wasting our nephews, I could relate to. I don't use my nephew
mm.
time telling him about photosynthesis for like 5 years and he doesn't want to be a biologist. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
he could be learning skills that like think about your career path. If you knew what you knew at 15 even and you can learn between 15 and 20 certain things, where to be now? Like where would I have been now?
No,
Um
if I was starting over, let's say I was a parent,
yeah,
I would shield my child from school as much as possible, and I'd put that child to work. That child will work on creating things that could
yeah,
sell. There's a component of like creating for joy and creating for the act of creating and
yeah,
learning, but creating a market ready product
yeah.
to some degree, like if you're not able to do that, you'll go work for someone who is creating a market ready product. And then as things get more and more efficient, those people who create those market ready products don't need as much people to do it, right? Unless those products are incredibly complex. And
Yeah.
that's okay. You need folks like that who've gone through a certain level of education to solve very hard problems. So education, I think, has a true benefit,
Mm-hmm.
but the efficiency of education for job market readiness is, well, I'm not going to say it's a problem. I'm just going to say I really hope someone just has a freelancer school. Like, you know how when you were home and you went for extra lessons to pass the exam, like I would
Yeah.
go to physics class in school and then spend 2.5 hours after, like 3 times a week, learning physics just to pass the damn
Right.
exam. I wish there was a freelancer school. Like my parents pay a little extra. I go learn to, like now all my graphic design, I do that shit myself because I've learned that. And in addition, I've discovered, oh, I actually like this. And that notion of discovering
Yeah. Discovery is
how
important.
you see the world and your gift is, yeah, there's, ooh, it's a heavy, heavy topic.
Yeah,
It's really a heavy topic.
honestly, bro. Yeah, like I like when I start talking about these things, like okay, I feel like I get old, but like I'll be having these kind
Now
of
you're old, trust, you're old
yeah,
already.
yeah. I'll be having these existential kind of thoughts, and I'll be thinking about way more than me. And like, okay, cool. I guess it's what maturity is. I like it, right? It's named like I'm being negative about it, but it's just like, okay, cool. I'm definitely here. 'Cause there's some days I don't even think about myself, bro. It might sound crazy. I don't think about myself. I'm just thinking about life, the world, and like young people, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of on a path already, so I'm not worried about myself in any way.
Hmm.
But how do we
Hmm.
how do we create this proliferation of other me's and better me's by far? And it's not like I'm the bar in any way, right? That's like how do we create this in data, in visual, in backend, in whatever. And like I said, like funny, there's something I probably could talk to me about as well. I want to create like I guess for Trini to understand it, like a Draper John D, like what John D was in our
Hmm.
parents' time. This, people go, they get their tiling skills and they get their whatever tech vocation or whatever, and they become a tiler and they could really mind a whole family now from being a tiler.
Hmm.
This is another thing,
Hmm.
right? They really cripple us to this whole academic system where we just learning maths and English and all these vocational skills still make a lot of money, way more money than these jobs that they have us in for like $10,000, $8,000, and it's a lot of brain work and different things, and you're not really making a salary, and they have tech workmen making six figures a year, and that transition, with what we're talking about, not to stray too much, but I want to make a Draper John D basically, where it's freelance
Hmm.
school. You're going to learn all these freelance skills. You could help the ecosystem, but then you're also getting paid as well as a contractor, or you can have your own product eventually, as you know. Once that creation doesn't stop. So you might end up creating your own product, you might create a team, whatever. But that's literally what I want to do. And I found like a super group of Caribbean people and they could have Draper John D,
Hmm.
literally, where, yeah, because I love Fatima and it's a good time, but I've not seen Fatima doing what we want to do, and that's not
Yeah.
like Fatima. Any high school or any, and I've seen the curriculum changing enough in a timely fashion to keep up with what's going on in the world.
Why would it change,
Like they
man?
literally,
I'm very
yeah,
cynical
like
when it
they
comes
literally,
to the actual, because there's, I understand why it won't change because it needed to be to a certain
correct,
verified to a certain level, and that verification process takes significant time and effort. But
yeah,
if you're a parent and you have a child, get that child prepared for the new world of every single year your job might change. And I think this notion of physical skills is very important. When ChatGPT came on, I'm like, shit, I need to go become a plumber. Like real talk. Them men and them people that make real money. I tell
yeah,
you, your
yeah,
house flooding, you them charge you what you want. They're making that money. Understand what I'm saying? And there's a level of freedom, I think, in having physical skills in addition
mhm,
to being able to solve extremely hard problems. This is why, like, if you have a skill in machine learning, etc., and you go work for a research team, this is why they get paid, half a million to a million US, depending on the types of research groups, or multi-millions of US for the folks
mhm,
who kind of hit it early on.
mhm.
And so those are the benefits of career paths like that. Um, okay, yeah, yeah. This has been interesting. I wanted to ask about, how do you think your Caribbean heritage has enabled you to succeed?
Um, good question. as much as we stand over sometimes, we're still warm, right? So
Mm.
simple things like my accent is very, as in Trinidad, we have a kind of sing-songy accent that I wasn't aware of until I started interacting with people, um, in university level when I had to travel and different things, we kind of charm people just by our being. We like to line, we just hang out, So we like to hang out. We could drink, we could all talk, we could break the ice. We are icebreakers. Once we're not being
Yes.
standoffish or in our heads about embarrassment, we are very natural icebreakers. So I think that helped me a lot. Always to carry conversation as well as negotiate, right? So simple
Mm.
things like haggling with somebody in Port of Spain over something. You may not think of it as a skill when you're younger, but there's a conversation, the ability to kind of compromise and trade off things. That's a very Caribbean thing, like we do that in our common interactions. So definitely that warmth, that charm, as well as we're colorful people, right? So our music, how we put colors together. Like even you right now, you're not wearing a stuffy shirt and tie. Like you're in a nice kind of flowery shirt because island vibes. Like it's ingrained in you from growing up where we don't try to do. We do us. If it's one thing Caribbean
Yes.
people do, sometimes our own detriment, right? But in a positive light, we do us well. Like we don't try to overly fit in or anything. I think that has definitely helped me stand out and help my career and help me connect and that sort of thing.
Great.
What would you say for you?
For me, I think your accent is a beacon when you go out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
I am only here today working at the top company at Nvidia, etc., because of my accent.
Okay.
So in that's how I met Larry. I randomly went to San Francisco. I didn't know a soul. Like
Right.
I was stupid enough to go in coffee shops like this. Tell you how ridiculous I was. Like you hear the stories about you go to a coffee shop, you get funding.
Yeah.
We literally went in coffee shops and I was macroing watching people laptops behind, like what they're doing, who are
Yeah.
gonna ask for funding. Like I thought that's stupid. And I met a Russian guy. And that's why I love people who tell you straight, like Russians will tell you straight. He's like, what are you doing here? You're trying to get funding and you're in coffee shops. He's like, just please go home. You're wasting your time. And I went to an event, but I heard the Trini accent from Larry
Yeah.
and walked at him, tall Rasta man, and I just walked at him and said, "What part of Trinidad are you from?" And he gave me this look like, "What do you mean, what part of Trinidad?" And that's how you connected internationally, right? So
Yeah.
I went to the complete opposite end of the US, and meeting him, he brought us into the whole Silicon Valley frame because he was there, and this is what led to a series of connections into me meeting you probably 7 years later. Okay. And
Yeah.
even
That's crazy,
starting this
right?
podcast. Yeah, it's amazing. And I think people, instead of blaming a lot of the government or where I live or where I'm born, blah, 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 it's incumbent upon you to maximize the number of connections that you have to make sure that you're providing value to all of those connections.
Mm-hmm.
And three, just continuously pushing the envelope. Yes, this is easy for me to say as an extrovert. I know there are many introverted people or quote unquote introverted people that it does not necessarily align to how they view the world, but there are many different ways to network. And I think that are still very authentic to how you operate. But that's one point I wanted to make sure that I think was called out is that your accent is a beacon. In addition, the energy with which you bring to conversations with, we like you say, we could link to anyone. And in an enterprise environment, in an enterprise sales environment, I think a lot of people get dissuaded by sales, but every single corporation in America runs on sales. Some of their biggest teams are the sales teams. And without that, all the big stock price you see on the internet,
Not
it
happening.
would not exist.
Yeah.
You understand? So it's this notion of people who can communicate the value of a business to potential customers and get them to close orders, especially when you ever get the opportunity to work in enterprise sales, you closing $1 million deals or $1 billion deals. This type of interaction with different people, connecting and ensuring that a certain level of confidence, especially for high tech products, I think is a great skill. So um, that me being from the Caribbean and me being just very outward, very warm. I can talk to anybody. I don't care what nobody tell me. They tell me some shit. Okay, no problem. I still smiling. All of those things have opened are the main reason that I'm here, other than higher powers and all those types of things and things that were out of my control in terms of me meeting people. But I do recommend to anyone, do your best to not necessarily keep your accent, but keep aspects of your Caribbean heritage that enable you to signal to the world, here's where I'm from, because that's your core network that you get to leverage when you're out there. You know.
Yeah. And on that point, something I wanted to tell you, right? I think I told you before, not that but I want to say it on the podcast. Like, I was really happy when we connected and I heard how strong your accent was. It wasn't fake, like, oh God, I'm trying to relate to Darnel. It was literally like, oh, I feel like he didn't leave Trinidad at all. You know? Like, it was just literally like, I
Yeah.
could, like, I feel like he went to America. This was in America. Like, he sounds like he's still super Trini. And one, it has the perks, which you described. But then two, a lot of people, and again, it's learned things, right, from
Hmm.
wrong sources on the previous generation, not to knock them, but being real. They, to make it in their day, maybe things are different as well without the internet. They lost their heritage a lot. They tried
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
like
They had
talk
to
with
assimilate.
to assimilate and talk with an accent. And I'm a global citizen, and they think it is some American or kind of something I hear a weird mix between British and American, and they let and it's like, nah, like you don't need to do all of that. Like, of course, so long as speech, but something I have to do when I take into like certain foreigners, like I slow down a little bit more. But funny enough, I'm not sure if it's a result of globalization and social media and whatnot. Sometimes it's like, oh, am I talking too quickly? And it's like, no, I understand everything you're saying. And I'm like, what? It's like, yeah. And then sometimes you're like, honestly, I have a Korean person in my job, so I understand you all. And like you're seeing the assimilation of authenticity, making it so way where it's an asset, you know. I used to be afraid of my accent when I was younger, thinking, well, I don't know how to talk like this or whatever. You always hear about that, right? But now it's like, no, people want you to be Mark and Daniel. And I
Hmm.
actually want you
Hmm.
in my team so I could hear something different from what I've been hearing my whole life. And I like your little Trini jokes, you know, like how you around.
Yeah.
And on this topic, actually, we could segue into, I'm not sure how much time we have, but literally like the soft skills, forget it. Yes, the AI is here and to stay and all that
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But you see like the negotiation skills and that's being you and being able to like communicate your idea. Like I said, sales is life, not even just like enterprise jobs. Like even like getting your mom when you're young for you to leave the house to sleep over a friend. Like you have to pitch to her why is a good idea. And I think that
Hmm.
you need to frame that for young people to understand you're selling it, your entire life you're gonna be selling to your significant other, to yourself in the morning, or why you should go to the gym when it's a cold day, or whatever the case is. Like, pitching is actually a really, really huge integral part of our lives. And yeah, these are things we need to like focus on way more. So much so, even though I think I'm good at it, I saw this course on a master class on persuasion, I think by
Hmm.
some guy. He's over the CIA or something. And I want to when I get time, when I get a little vacation, I want to do that. And I saw something on Yale as well on persuasion. It's like it's not to like be a tyrant or take over the world. It's literally like how do I craft a message to be more concise and more warm? You know, like the best ads, the best everything is just quick connections. You know, and people take that for granted. A copywriter making X amount of money, yeah, like getting that message in 40 characters is not easy. You know, again, I feel like these are things people should be learning in school rather than Pythagoras theorem. There's a high chance most of us are not going to use that in our life, you know, but we will use persuasion and a UI something or whatever, you know, like that is way more of our time, you know. But yeah,
No, the hard part about all of this is that the people who suffer the most are the ones who don't, whose parents may not hear this perspective.
correct.
And those who don't maybe have the financial means to have access to a piece of technology that will give them a bigger perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And it really wouldn't have taken much to change their lives. And the big challenge is, you get brought onto this earth by no choice of yours.
Right.
And now you have to learn to navigate in this world. And
Crazy,
you
yeah?
get certain information. Yeah, bro. Like I'm this is why I'm very big on l- learning very quickly at a very young age, and this is why I believe young people can truly create a life for themselves from like teenagers. You could be earning thousands of dollars globally as a teenager. You just literally just have to get a shit ton of no's and ask somebody, like
Yeah.
ping me, and I'll tell you like go do something, and I'll open doors if I can. And it's truly, to some degree, being unconventional, and recognizing that a lot of the rules that was set up. I like this quote from Steve Jobs, and he in his interview is saying like, when you realize the world was made up by a bunch of people who are
Yeah.
no different than you, and they just architected these rules and place these limitations on your mind. So I think removing the requirement that you need to like something to do it, I think that was the one gift that I was given in my pursuit of a green card in America. So it took me 2006 to 2021, so 15 years to get a green card, and I was a student that entire time. None of my H-1Bs went through. So for those of you listening, oh, I'll just get a company to sponsor me my H-1B visa. It doesn't work like that. It's a lottery, and you know hundreds of thousands or millions of people apply for that thing, and there
Yeah.
are only, I think, 50,000 slots, by the way.
Yeah.
So um, if you want to take luck out of the equation, if you want to add more luck to the equation, let's say, I think it's really your grit. There's certain things that are truly out of your control, and yeah, man, I really feel for the young people at home. I did a coding boot camp in Mayaro, and I wanted to cry. I mean, I tell you,
Mm.
because the mutes on them, they're more smarter than me, quote unquote. Like, let's say we put a label of smart. Like, they
Yeah.
had the energy, they had the creativity, they could have learned things fast, they had vision, heart, and they would not fully realize it just because of one, where they were
Mm-hmm.
born, or two, just access to
Access. Mm-hmm.
some gateway for that skill set to flourish. So I really hope that personally with this relationship, and just in general, we could really make a dent, because it didn't make sense. You come here in this life to suffer. You know what I'm saying? It is not a nice thing, and I think the levels of suffering that people experience coming are way worse than before, simply because, like, if you
Yeah.
were suffering before, you didn't know the true depth of suffering. You understand? And seeing people living a good life and you suffering, you're just suffering, and you think everybody's suffering. So I think the levels of depression that young people will face coming up by not having, I don't want to say not having opportunities, I think the opportunities, by not being guided on how to discover those opportunities, I think that's the problem to solve, or the work to be done, essentially, to make a dent, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah. And this is what worries me, right? Like, you see how we talking, like, and it scares me when they're like multi-millionaires and billionaires with access who don't feel this and they just live their day. Like, sometimes I wonder, like, maybe our the country to are reptilians real? Like, like some, like, I wonder, like, how could you not want to change this? Or whether you, when whatever town you from or wherever you're from, say you want to me around your coding camp, it's like you must feel the urge to want to give back, and not give back for like a medal. That's literally like, yo, you will change at a really rapid pace, and you all are smart, and your parents just have the means, or they may have been responsible in making you before they had the means, and they don't know better, and now you stuck. You have all the acumen and all the faculties, but now you stuck, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that heartbreaking.
No, I don't really look to rich people to give back. They're rich. They put in their time and they achieve their
Yeah.
thing. You know what I mean? And I think it's just incumbent on each person to, but it's a catch 22.
Mm-hmm.
If I teach you, you take away my ability to have resources. So I think this is why, like, food security type thing, and because all about food.
Yeah.
A cousin was telling me, like, if you feel horny, you could do certain things and get rid of that feeling.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you're hungry, there's nothing, like, you can't slap your belly and the
Yeah.
feeling go
Yeah.
away. You understand? Like,
Yeah.
you can't really do that.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh crap! Like, I have to physically
Eat. Yeah.
do something in this world in order to survive with food. Like, if we
Yeah.
go to that basic level.
Yeah, and
Um,
if you're lucky, you could pick up something up from your backyard. If you're not lucky, you gotta get a job to get the money to get the food. Yeah, and again, and I'm a kind of international relations kind of man. So, um, that next point thing, right, in the Caribbean. I didn't get my mine in it because I did two courses in the same line or something. Again, these
Mm,
arbitrary rules, right? But I like IR is one of my favorite subjects in life, right? That changed how I view the world even more than what I already
mm-hmm.
learned in linguistics, right? Because learning how the language comes from and different things like whatever, right? We gotta get into that nerdy side of thing. But on a real, that's the full location, right? How humans are able to develop. Because once we didn't have to hunt animals and we grew crops, like when people laugh at like vegetarians or vegans, right? The only thing that have us with civilization is crops because animals move around. So when we were
Mm-hmm.
hunter gatherers, we have to like follow animals. So we weren't really stable. We have to follow where the animals are. And if we over farm, like say the buffalo, we had to follow a new setup, whatever. Fish and buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
But when we started to grow crops and realized we could harvest seeds, then that's how come we had structures because we know we're going to grow X amount of crops by X amount of time, and we have rice and we have peas or whatever. So then that's how we're able to form societies. So the whole food security thing, and I'm glad you mentioned that point. I'm glad you're aware of that, right? As a tech person, because I like people who in tech, but they grounded in reality, right? In terms of the physical side of the world. Without food security, there's no AI because we don't have the luxury to even like develop the machine learning models, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that came from
Mm-hmm.
us being able to grow crops and factor in, hey, I could feed up this tribe for the next year if we do this. So, yeah, food security, that's something I want to really get into, something from
Now, I mean, like, I tell you, I all this AI thing, I've been studying farming for a while. I really grew up, and I think that's my main challenge. But to be honest with you, I think that's the greatest mechanism of control that there is, right? If I could control your food, your mind to some degree, and I'm very interested as to how you make how you sort of liberate yourself within a system and continue to do your thing, but also not be too controlled to some degree.
yeah, not
So I
falling
wanna
off the grid like a madman, but like
no no no.
if you
I
could control your crops, and actually there should be a shameless plug time, because we have a partnership with Rescott, and they do
okay
greenhouses, and they actually came on
okay
our local, estate recently, and they're gonna put on a greenhouse and show people, hey, in
nice
3 months we get all the things built in and water and thing pumping through, blah blah blah, and then in the next 3 months you see the food come to bed. So it's literally a 6 month
wow
process from build to ripe fruit in your hand. And that's
mm,
real powerful if you think about it, right? In 6 months, they could
yes
guarantee food in hand,
yeah food wow
which comes back to your food security thing, right? And that's what we're doing. Like, I don't want to just focus on tech and people think like apps. No, like the technology in food is very, very essential because I could do without ChatGPT. I like it. I
hmm
can't do without food growing up in a particular time,
yeah yeah
all of a sudden we back to savages, like all this fake sophistication we people seeing. It's that food, if food is a problem tomorrow, is Mark who fit and shrunk could fight out for people and like you're gonna realize, okay, we're back to what actually matters and it'll be a very different world without food security.
yeah I agree man, and I think as different people are not able to earn a living and to support their families, and you have to resort, you gotta eat. You
Yeah,
understand? So I ain't really holding things against people.
yeah.
So as we drive a little closer to closing, let me ask you these questions. What are three principles you live by?
Three principles I live by. Hope I don't sound like a mob boss here. But
Nah, man.
integrity is number one for me. Um, People always matching their actions is everything to me. Like, I don't care how much money I have. I don't care how cool you think you are. If you get say, Daniel, I'll do A and I do A, like mentally, as just you up in my, you know what I mean? Like you say, Daniel, boy,
Mm,
I saw I this podcast thing, we got to do a podcast. You took a while, you had other things going on in your life, whatever. But hey, Daniel, guess what? Hey, this back on. And you say you could come back to me and say, hey, we got a podcast. Like, unknown to you, like it was not a big deal, but in my mind, right, full some integrity. Kept his word even with the pivots of life. And that's number one. Principle number two, empathy, right? Knowing that, hey, not everybody has my circumstance, right? Even though I'm Dana and I thinking, boy, I wish I had a visa easier, or I knew about this before. So I've had this before
mm-hmm.
and I'll be living this other tech dream before. I also believe in higher powers, and I think I was supposed to get a job so I could have the process and the personal experience to know that these are problems. I need to talk to people about this problem. So I think a lot of the hardships we go through that are hardships are just teaching moments so that our story gets enriched to the point where we could share this now to a bigger group of people, right? So empathy and understanding that. Even though I'm sure you're Mark and you have things you still want to do. Like, I wish I had this. But then when you reflect, you're like, wait, I work in Nvidia. I could afford to do this. I could afford to have this problem, which is something that I'm really grateful for this year. Like, I'm doing a lot of reflecting on empathy and different gratitudes. And I'm like, yo, I'm grateful I have this first world problem, versus that
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Mm-hmm.
pillaging somewhere trying to in some country that's war torn or something, right? And I'm worried about the next meal, right? I have really comfortable problems. So I'll say integrity, empathy. What is the principle I live by, boy? I try my best to take nothing personally. Way easier said than done, right? But over the years, I've gotten much better at it. The Zen. I'm a weird balance in my friend groups. I'm the Zen person who bring people together, and then I'm also might sound like a kind of freedom fighter, kind of guy sometimes, right? But it's a balance, right? And one of my favorite books is The Four Agreements,
Mm.
and that's one of the principles, right? Don't take anything personally because people are going through their own life circumstance. Like I said, some people are born here, they didn't ask to come here, and some of them in great circumstances, so they have no complaints, and some of them in some shitty circumstances, right? And they didn't
Mm-hmm.
ask for this, So if today this man cussed me because he having a hard day, I try to tune it out like, why you might have having a hard day? Like I really try to let other things run off my back. Sometimes people think I'm so passive. Like, not passive is like, is this problem, quote unquote, even a problem? Is it worth entertaining? This person who's having road rage or whatever? Nah, like let him get it out rather than he do that and he kill somebody. Cuss me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what I mean? Cuss me if you had to cuss me and like, let me drive off. I'm not gonna come out the car. Nah. You go ahead and cuss me. I might just get up, beat my horn and smile. And sometimes, like, so now at time that happened in reality, right? A man cussed me at a traffic light for a bad drive. I didn't see him coming and, whatever. I smile and say, boy, have a good day you know. And he pull away traffic light and he say, have a good day, have a good day. I was like, yeah, bro, I don't know. Something might be going on your day. My day kind of cool. I wish your day was cool and we could drink a beer, but, so we busy and, life is life. And he laughed. He's like, boy, Dark man, that's a real interesting way to look at life, boy.
That.
He's like, I taking that one and I taking that one and he smiled. So he moved from cussing me to like, he's like, well, that's really interesting, boy. I thought you'd want to cuss me back or something. He's like, I taking out, he's like, Dark man, I taking that one, I taking that one. He smiled and drive off. And in my mind, for me, I do my good act for the month and then for the day. Like, he could now smile at because perspective will change how you view something, right? It's like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sometimes people will be like, this might be a little segue, but like, they'll say, I can't afford something versus, well, how could I afford it? We all agree that you
Ooh.
can't afford it right now, right? You can't
Mm.
afford it right now, sure, no problem. But the mindset should be, well, how could I afford this thing? Like, do I need to get a job or do I need to network? Is there a skill I don't have? Is there somebody I need to talk to? Like, how could I afford this thing? Like, how could we do the podcast together? Or how could we do this John D thing that we're talking about, this freelance school that might change it? Two of us can't do it alone, but who do we need to talk to? Who do we need to fund it? Is it only Draper? Is it Texas should get involved? Is it Nvidia should have? Like,
Mm-hmm.
the more we talk about it and keep an open mind, the road rage could have turned to like somebody laughing and driving off. And now he might spread joy to somebody after he turned the traffic light. He like, he might meet his grumpy friend and be like, oh, we smiling at boy. I told we's bad man, boy, we grumpy. It's like, boy, honestly, boy, that one out tell me something there, And and again, to me, to kind of I guess wrap up this principle thing is literally like it's something I heard in Inception when I was younger, right? There's nothing more powerful than an idea. Of course, I'm sure that phrase existed before, but in Inception, the way they brought it across, that was the most powerful thing about the movie, right? That's the fact of our idea. Like, there's nothing more powerful than that. Like, it didn't cost me anything to tell him that, and now this could infect his other friend group who are grumpy to now understand, hey, we should be less grumpy, boy. Like, idea is something that's I guess I call it mind farming. The same way we could grow seeds, but you need physical land space. The good thing
Mm-hmm.
about
Mm-hmm.
sharing perspective like podcasts and TED Talks and those kind of things is that you don't need real estate, like you just need people with ears and you just need to have a mic or whatever, auditory deliverable, and you can now grow this whole positive thing in a whole generation. And to me, that's one of the craziest things about humanity. Like we could choose that, or we could choose to like spew hate, right? But even any hate thing is growing, right? So it doesn't matter. We need to be once you're mindful of that, we could choose to like share good ideas. I get a
Oh,
little
well.
philosophical there, but
No, no. I see now. I see now in your head. Come on,
yeah,
come on. Which is good. I think this is a component of entrepreneurship that people don't really talk about. you're going to sacrifice a significant amount of your life, significant amount of your relationships, in
Mm-hmm.
addition to your health, to pursue this so-called wealth. And I think being grounded in your principles and your values and trying to live those sort of every day is one of the true keys to getting to where technically we want to or we already are. I want to share a quick story. I was in San Diego the other day. So you go into like one of the most beautiful beaches in California, and I was walking, and you're kind of like, you ain't really showing true exuberance, and then a homeless fella man scream at me, and he's like, smile. I was like, what the mother ass this man come on from? Like, and the man tell me like, smile no, and the man vex it. And
Homeless, yeah,
like,
homeless people, let's do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
nah. And but you're studying well, this man, he sound like crack out and thing, and you don't want to get beat up
Yeah,
because
he might hit me.
a man have rage and thing. Yeah, boy, I started smiling, and the man, in the night I went back and talked to the man, and the man was real normal. The man was very educated, talking good. Man was reading the book and thing, and had a real good conversation. I say, so why is it that you forced me to? Why did you force that reminder to smile? And he was just like, that's my gift. What else can I give in this world, right? But just if I give a smile and get the other person to give a smile, that propagates that energy sort of across the world. You know what I mean? And I personally found that was a very powerful thing, because in that moment, I wasn't being as grateful as I was. I was just like, all right, well, you get to the next thing, and I was on vacation in a beautiful place that I could just pick up and go to the other side of the US and not think about the money. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a blessing, you know what I mean? So him jolting me in that moment, I thought was very powerful. And since then I've been trying to continue just be smiling. You're going through your day and you have shit to do, and smile. Keep your ass quiet and smile, you understand? Um, okay.
Yeah, and
So my
that powerful. These simple things in life, like this. Yeah, like what else could I give? And honestly, that method has been what was needed. Because he's now in Trinidad. Whoever, I didn't even know his name, but his
mhm,
message again, the power of idea,
yeah.
right, is now in Trinidad.
Bro, the man just straight up, and now every time I was passing him, because he was by my hotel, another part walk, I had to smile. You understand? So I think that was a very powerful, that's a powerful piece of tech. Screaming at somebody and telling them to do something. Okay. What are two pieces of advice you have for a high schooler, someone in college or college graduate, and professional?
um, each one had to be separate, or it applies to all of them.
Sure, they could overlap, which is fine. But I want to make sure at
Honestly,
least each of those audiences get something, you understand?
yeah, for sure. So the high schooler definitely after school, don't just like browse social media for like funny videos or for music stuff or whatever. Like, of course, enjoy your life. You're young, but make sure and explore something. Explore a skill. Figure out if you
Hmm.
like design. Figure out if you like forming teams. Figure out if you like creating music. Figure out what side of the creative spectrum you fall on, and start to hone that craft from early. That will change your life. It'll change your network. And if you already have money, it's not even about money. Because life is after your masters, you have your physiological needs, you have your security and all that, but then you have self-esteem things, right? You have your actualization that you want to achieve in life. So it applies to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're now gaining wealth or already have wealth. Like you're gonna want to feel purposeful in something that you're doing after high school. And you're gonna wanna not feel like you wasted time and you wish you did this and you wish you did that. So yeah, figure out whatever it is after school, start exploring. Like that's the high schooler and a college graduate. Um, Similar, but I guess you have to be a little more feverish in your pursuit because now you're kind of heading towards any real world. If you're going to do your masters and you have a family support you, they're gonna have less empathy towards you staying at home or whatever. So either way,
Hmm.
take it. Like even if you're hustling or you don't have to hustle, make sure that you have some. Well, in the college perspective, I would say what the difference I would say is that you should have something paying your bills, right? And while paying your bills, if you love it, then you get through, right? Great. But if you don't love it, your off time should be figuring out what it is you want to do and how to connect those dots, right? Exploration is just underrated, I think. Like discovery, like you need to explore online, and we have so many resources now. Like, don't only look at the OnlyFans section or whatever, right? Like, make some time to like let people call you a nerd, or like I said, let people say, "Boy, Dan, I see you in a while, boy. Yeah, like, I looking for me. You know, I am creating myself. I am. What do I like? What don't I like? You know what I mean? Like I went through many periods of my life over the last 6 years where it's like people won't see me for a whole 6 months. It's like, yeah, like I trying to learn this course and thing, and it's like, but why you tell them that? But this person say this here. Well, they actually discovering too. So we talk about these discoveries. So it just happened at this point in my life. I'm not partying anymore. I'm doing this thing where I'm discovering, and people who are my wavelength, we naturally connecting and we talking. Like I don't talk about my next party, and there's no knock on parties. Just I'm not there right now. I realized time I wanted in Fatima to do XYZ. I wasn't thinking on that wavelength, or actually no, I didn't. We didn't have the resources. We didn't have Coursera's and different things like that as yet. You know what I mean? We now get there, to be honest. So now I trying to maximize my time because I don't want to be working forever. I want to retire. Honestly, I want to retire by 40 max.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if I have these different goals, I will be doing these different expeditions and researches. You know, if I'm traveling, I trying to meet somebody. I trying to like I'm not just going on spring break. You know, like I'm trying to get an acquisition or trying to that which happens in Lucia last year was really, you know what I mean? Or we trying to like you know what I mean? Like we trying to do these different so my purpose is different for my time and discoveries because as you all know, we only have 24 hours. You know, so yeah. I think
What
that's
would
my
you say to a professional? We gotta tell
a
them.
professional. Yes, you have a professional. If you like your job or your career, if it's more like it's way more than a job, go deeper in your career. If you're already a graphic artist, how could AI enhance your graphic career? If you're good at Figma, how much better could you get? Or is there another tool you could couple with Figma? Like, could you now learn how to do, I don't know, light backend development so you become a full stack person and you're not just a designer? Or maybe you just want to get niched, or maybe you want to have a side hustle where, all right, I can pay well, dream work, but you know what? I want to spend more time with my family soon. How could I do that? Again, I want people to start thinking, especially as a professional, don't tell me about the constraints. Darnel, I work in 9 to 5, boy, sometimes I work in 9 to 8. Nah, all right, cool. Granted, how could you afford to find more time in your day to become better at this thing that you want to do? Like, don't tell me what we already know the problem exists. Problems exist everywhere. We know that. How could we do this thing? How could we afford it? How could we get it done? You know, like we need to get more curious in our approach to life and open, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, last question. What are 3 books you recommend?
3 books I recommend. Oh, that's hard boy. I realize. three
Well, you
books
had the
I
four
recommend.
agreements. I thought that was I never heard
Forgiveness
that
have to
one
be
before.
there.
That
Have to
was
be there
interesting.
because a lot of people take things so personally, and there are more principles. Like keep your
Mm-hmm.
word,
Mm-hmm.
which is integrity. Right, make sure your word is your word. Um, make sure and don't take things personally because everybody's at different levels of consciousness. The 4 agreements that should be in schools, right? The same way we're reading Hamlet and whatever. Those books are cool, but if you had those, there are different books if we had in Form 1 to 5, we'll have way different humans walking around the earth right now. You know, like if
Mm-hmm.
you realize you
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't take this personally and you should keep your word and different things like that, it'll be less war, it'll be less conflict, there'll be way more collaboration, there'll be way more creation, you know, which is what we need. So definitely 4 agreements. What another book I'll say that changed my perspective, boy? The Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck. That's a psychologist. The growth
Mm-hmm.
is talking about the growth mindset where I don't know how to do this thing yet, but I can learn to do it. There's the fixed mindset where it's like, I'm not good at math. Like a lot of times in Caribbean, especially well, we love our forefathers and our grannies and grandparents, but sometimes it's like, Mark, you know, you not know numbers, man. Forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Study the business or study the drawing you could draw. Because like currently Mark is not a numbers person, but Mark can learn to do this. Of course, we know you might be born with a propensity towards drawing or speaking, right? But if
Mm-hmm.
Mark really wants to become an accountant, Mark could apply himself. Like, and that's the growth mindset, right? And that's something that's missing in Caribbean. We have a very fixed mindset. This man is a scientist. This man is a linguist. You know, like I said,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we're now trying to transition to becoming multi-hyphenate, you know? And I think that book, The Growth Mindset, again, it has in schools, teachers as well as students will both benefit from it and it'll open dialogue, right? The books I'm talking about, they open dialogue. You can't read a book and just stay quiet. You're going to talk to your friend about it. You're going to talk to somebody about the book. And book number 3. Um, what's book number 3, boy? I would say How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like again, a lot of your life is going to be communication and how do you pitch ideas, whether it's to go to the mall, whether it's to propose to your girlfriend. Like everything in life is pitching. When you rock back, like sales is so much of our life that we didn't realize, when we were younger. That you didn't realize it's pitching your friends. Hey, why we should go play football, boy? Because I want you football, and this girl gonna show up. And that's that. Those two factors is actually what made the football set happen. It wasn't just benevolence. You know what I mean? But you're not thinking about it that way because you're not aware. But the more where you get is like, okay, and if he's this, okay, all right, he's actually an introvert. I shouldn't talk to him this way. So these kind of books, like those Carnegie books with psychology involved, and just being aware of people, different dispositions and whatnot, that'll take us so far in life. Soft skills, like so as much as we get into the AI and whatever, people with soft skills are gonna keep running new.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be here without my small skills. So that was, yeah, those are some good books. Something that came to mind there with the sales thing that I was trying to remember is that every single thing, like you look around, every single thing that you have was
Yeah.
purchased that with money that came from a company, or your parents' own business or your own
Mm-hmm.
business, which means that
Mm-hmm.
had a function of sales in it. So if you
Most
don't
definitely.
if you don't respect selling, then pressure in the camp. We were supposed to go like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and we're about
Yeah,
2 hours
boy.
and 10 minutes in. Yeah, son. But definitely
Good
enjoy the
conversation.
conversation.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll keep this thing going. So I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, man, definitely. And yeah, I mean, we're on WhatsApp. There are a lot of things that we spoke about organically that I would definitely want us to kind of circle back on in real life and follow up on.
Yeah, so tell the audience where they can find you on Draper Startup House and get connected.
Sure. So Darnel Francois on many things. LinkedIn most predominantly. You'll find me on IG. I'm not an influencer, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, where on IG I share a lot of these kind of ramblings. I realize, okay, like I thought you're just a tech person. You're way more into like the life thing.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Draper, you can find Draper Startup House, the global company.
Yes.
That handle at Draper Startup House on LinkedIn, IG, or anywhere there's social media. And then DSH Caricom, you find us on LinkedIn, on Instagram as well. You can see cool things we're up to, whether it's with Carnival Tribe, whether it's a tech fest or whatnot. We are very much any culture. We're not trying to just be some tech society. We want it to be a human place where people learn about tech and learn about investments. It's the other way around. People think we're just a tech. No, we're not a tech company. We're a human company, and tech is a big part of it, and investment is a big part of it.
Vibes. We'll keep the conversation going, man. Blessings.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Later.
Yeah, man.